The strangest thing about back pain is not that modern life created it. It is that the human back was never a clean, finished design. It carries the memory of an older body, built through long changes, half shaped for climbing, half reshaped for standing, walking, carrying, bending, and surviving on uneven ground. So when your back hurts from something small, the pain may be pointing toward a much older compromise still inside you. Why your back hurts so easily, and the ancient reason humans still carry. The first thing to understand is that a hurting back does not always begin with a dramatic moment. It may not begin with a fall, a heavy lift, or a clear injury that can be named. Sometimes it begins after standing at a sink, turning in bed, sitting too long in a chair, or bending to pick up something that seems too light to matter. This is what makes back pain feel so unfair. The body appears to react strongly to something ordinary. A small movement meets a large response, yet this does not mean the body is broken in a simple way. It may mean that the back has been carrying many quiet demands before the moment when pain finally becomes loud enough to notice. The human back is not a single piece of bone. It is a living arrangement of vertebrae, discs, joints, muscles, ligaments, nerves, and layers of connective tissue, all working together while the body balances above the pelvis. It must hold the head, stabilize the trunk, allow breathing, let the arms move, and still leave enough freedom for bending and turning. That combination is useful, but it is not simple. A structure that must be both strong and flexible can become sensitive when many small pressures gather in the same place. This is where the ancient story begins. Because the human spine did not appear as a perfect column made only for upright life. It came from a much older mammalian body, shaped through long periods of movement on uneven ground, in trees, across slopes, and through changing landscapes. Long before chairs, mattresses, floors, cars, and desks existed, the back was already part of a body that had to adjust, brace, twist, climb, rest, rise again, and carry weight in changing ways. When humans became committed walkers on two legs, the spine did not get replaced by a completely new structure. It was modified. Older parts were asked to do newer work. The lower back developed curves that help keep the upper body balanced over the hips. The pelvis, legs, and feet changed with it. These changes allowed efficient upright walking, but they also created a system where balance depends on many parts sharing the load. If one region becomes tired or restricted, another region may compensate. If the hips are stiff, the lower back may move more. If the trunk muscles are fatigued, the spine may depend more on passive tissues. If attention, sleep, stress, or long stillness changes how the nervous system reads signals from the body, discomfort may become easier to feel. None of this requires a single dramatic failure. It can come from a long conversation between posture, movement, rest, strength, habit, and the nervous system. This is why the back can hurt so easily while still being remarkably capable. The same back that complains after a poor night of sleep can help a person walk, turn, lift, breathe, and balance through thousands of small adjustments in a day. Its sensitivity is partly the other side of its usefulness. A rigid back would not serve a human well. A completely loose back would not support the body. The spine lives between those extremes, and that middle place is where many human vulnerabilities exist. Modern life often hides this truth because so much of daily movement has become flat, repetitive, and still. A person may sit for long periods, then suddenly ask the back to lift, twist, or carry. The movement seems small, but the tissues may be unprepared in that moment. This does not mean ancient people lived without pain, and it does not mean modern people are simply doing everything wrong. It means the back belongs to a long history. It is a useful compromise, not a flawless machine. When it hurts from something simple, it may be reminding us that the body still carries the shape of an older life, one that began long before comfort became a normal expectation. A spine can look simple when it is drawn as a line of bones, one stacked above another, rising from the pelvis to the skull. But the living spine is not simple. It is not a straight pole placed inside the body. It is curved, jointed, layered, and held in place by tissues that are always responding to gravity. Even when a person seems still, the back is not truly still. Small muscles make quiet corrections. Ligaments limit movement before it goes too far. Discs help spread pressure between bones. Nerves carry information from deep tissues into the spinal cord and brain. The body reads this information constantly, often below awareness, so that standing, walking, turning, reaching and breathing can feel natural. This natural feeling can hide how complicated the arrangement really is. The human spine is not the product of a single, clean blueprint. It is the result of older structures being changed over time for newer demands. That is one reason back pain can feel so confusing. We expect the body to behave like a finished object, but evolution does not work like a careful engineer starting from nothing. It works with what is already there. A mammalian backbone, inherited from much older animals, became part of a primate body that could climb, grasp, lean, hang, and move through branches. Later, in the human line, that same general structure was drawn into a more upright life. The back had to support the trunk in a new relationship with the pelvis and legs. The head had to balance above the body. The arms were freed for reaching, carrying, making tools, holding children, and shaping the world. These changes were useful, but usefulness is not the same as perfection. A change that helps one kind of movement can create weakness in another condition. A curve that helps balance can also focus strain. A flexible lower back can help the body turn and adapt, but it can also become a place where repeated pressure gathers. The spine is therefore not a mistake, but it is also not a flawless column designed only for the life many people now live. It is a historical compromise inside the body. This matters because modern back pain is often judged too quickly. People may think that if pain appears, one tissue must be damaged in a clear and simple way. Sometimes there is a clear injury, and medical care can be important when pain is severe, unusual, or connected with serious symptoms. But in many ordinary experiences of back pain, the story is more layered. The back may hurt because several systems have become irritated together. A disc may be under pressure. A joint may be sensitive. Muscles may be guarding. The nervous system may be more alert after poor sleep, stress, or long discomfort. The hips and ribs may not be sharing movement well. The body does not separate these things neatly. It experiences the combined result as pain, stiffness, fear of movement, or a deep need to rest. The ancient origin of the spine helps explain why this complexity exists. The back was not built for one perfect posture. It was shaped by variation. Early humans and their ancestors moved through irregular places, changed direction often, rested in many positions, and used the whole body in ways that were not divided into exercise and inactivity. The spine had to adapt to uneven ground, shifting loads, and repeated small corrections. In that world, its flexibility was valuable. But when the same spine spends long hours in a fixed chair, on a flat floor, inside vehicles, or in front of a screen, the old need for varied adjustment is reduced. Then, when movement finally comes, it may arrive suddenly and narrowly. A twist to one side, a bend from the waist, a lift with tired muscles. The back is asked to perform after being held quiet. It may respond not because it is weak in a simple sense, but because its older design depends on rhythm, distribution, and shared work across the body. This is why calling the spine poorly designed is too harsh, and calling it perfectly designed is too simple. It is better to see it as a living record of trade-offs. It carries traces of four-legged ancestry, tree-adapted movement, upright walking, tool use, carrying, and long human endurance. Every curve and joint belongs to that history. When the back hurts easily, the pain is not proof that the body has failed its purpose. It may be the sound of an old structure meeting a new pattern of life, still doing its best to keep the head balanced, the hands free, and the body moving forward. It is tempting to think that modern back pain is only a modern problem, born from chairs, screens, soft beds, and lives that no longer require much walking across rough ground. There is some truth in that picture, but it is not the whole truth. Modern habits can make the back more sensitive, especially when the body spends long hours in stillness and then is suddenly asked to bend, lift, or turn. Yet the deeper reason the back can hurt so easily reaches further back than office work or modern furniture. It reaches into the way the human body became human at all. The spine carries a history of useful compromises, and a compromise is different from a defect. It means one advantage was gained while another kind of strain became more likely. Upright walking gave the hands a new freedom. It allowed the head to look across distance, the arms to carry food or tools, and the body to move efficiently over open ground. But the price of that upright life was placed partly on the lower back. A body that once shared weight differently now had to balance the trunk above the pelvis, step after step, day after day. The spine curved to make this possible. The hips, knees and feet join the same adjustment. This arrangement is deeply effective, but it is not effortless. It asks the lower back to be both a support and a moving joint, both a stabilizer and a bridge between the upper body and the legs. A small ache in that region can therefore be connected to a very large story. It may come from a muscle held too long in one position, or from a joint made sensitive by repeated strain, or from tissues that have not recovered after ordinary use. But behind those immediate causes is an older fact. The back was shaped to manage changing loads, not to exist without them. It was shaped for a body that moved through the day in many ways, with standing, walking, crouching, turning, resting, rising, and carrying blending into one another. Modern life often breaks that blend apart. It can keep the body still for a long time, then demand sudden movement from a narrow angle. It can make the back hold a fixed posture while the eyes and hands do most of the work. It can separate the mind from the body so quietly that tension builds before attention returns to it. When pain appears, it feels as if it arrived from nowhere, but often the back has been answering small demands for hours or days before the signal becomes clear. This is why the title's question matters. Why does the back hurt so easily? Not because humans are badly made in a simple way. Not because the past was perfect and the present ruined everything. The more honest answer is slower. The human back is strong enough to carry an upright life, but sensitive enough to reveal when the balance between movement, rest, load, and recovery has become uneven. This sensitivity is not separate from evolution. It is part of the same body that made long walking, fine hand use, social carrying, tool making, and endurance possible. In that sense, back pain can be understood as a meeting point between ancient anatomy and present conditions. The bones and tissues remember a world of varied movement, even when the day asks for stillness. The nervous system remembers that pain is a warning signal, even when there is no single dramatic injury. The lower back remembers, in its shape and workload, that standing upright was never a free gift. This does not make the body less impressive. It may make it more understandable. A perfect machine would either work or fail. A living body negotiates. It adapts, protects, complains, heals, and warns. The back hurts easily because it is not merely a wall behind the body. It is the old central passage through which balance, movement, weight, and survival have been negotiated for a very long time. Before the human back carried the full meaning of standing upright, it belonged to a different kind of body. That older body was not the body of a modern person sitting in a chair, nor the body of a human walking across a flat road. It was part of a primate history in which movement was spread through the shoulders, arms, hands, hips, legs, and spine in a more varied way. The ancestors of humans did not begin as creatures designed around a vertical column. They came from mammals, and later primates, whose backs served many tasks: bending, bracing, climbing, reaching, balancing, and changing direction through complex environments. In trees, along branches, and across uneven surfaces, the spine was not simply a tower holding the head above the pelvis. It was a flexible link between the front and back of the body, between the limbs that grasped and the limbs that pushed. This matters because the modern human back still carries traces of that older arrangement. When your lower back complains after a small movement, it is easy to imagine the problem as something purely local, as if one weak spot has failed. But the deeper story begins before the body became fully committed to walking on two legs. In many primates, the back works with the arms and legs in a shared pattern. Weight is not always carried straight down through the spine in the way it is when a human stands. Movement is often distributed. The shoulders may pull, the arms may hang or grasp, the hips may flex deeply, the trunk may lean forward or twist, the spine may bend as part of a whole-body action rather than holding a tall posture for long periods. This does not mean those older bodies were free from strain. Living tissues always have limits, but it does show that the human spine began its history under different expectations. It was not first shaped for long hours of upright stillness, with the head balanced above the shoulders and the lower back quietly resisting gravity. It was shaped within a wider animal inheritance, where movement was often irregular, responsive, and shared among many structures. The transition toward upright walking did not erase that inheritance. It built upon it. The pelvis changed. The legs became more central to travel. The feet became platforms for pushing through the ground. The skull balanced differently on the spine. The lower back developed a curve that helps place the upper body over the hips. Yet none of this meant the old backbone disappeared, and a new one arrived in its place. Evolution rarely works by removing the past cleanly. It revises what already exists. A flexible primate spine was asked to become part of a vertical walking system. Shoulders and arms, once more directly involved in support and movement through trees, became increasingly free for carrying, touching, shaping, and making. The back became the middle structure in a changing body plan. It had to connect the head, ribs, pelvis, and limbs while the entire pattern of movement was being reorganized. This is one reason human back pain cannot be understood only by looking at modern habits. Chairs and screens may irritate the problem, but they did not create the ancient compromise. The compromise was already present when an older spine became part of an upright animal. A back that had once worked in many angles now had to serve a body that increasingly lived above 2 feet. It had to allow bending and twisting, but also maintain balance. It had to remain flexible, but also protect the spinal cord and support the weight of the trunk. It had to help breathing, turning, carrying, and walking, often at the same time. In the long path toward being human, this was a powerful solution, not a foolish one. It allowed movement through open landscapes, the use of hands, and the carrying of tools, food, and children. But every useful solution creates its own pressures. The back became a place where old flexibility and new upright demands met. That meeting did not end in prehistory. It continues each time a person rises from a chair, bends from the waist, twists while lifting, or stands still longer than the tissues prefer. The body feels modern, but the back inside it is older than the room, older than the chair, older than the road beneath the feet. It is a living remnant of a time when movement was not centered on sitting and standing alone, but on a whole body negotiating branches, ground, weight, and balance in many directions. The spine did not begin its long story as a straight pillar built to hold a human head above a human pelvis. That image belongs to a later chapter in the body's history, after many changes had already taken place. Long before a person could stand at a doorway, walk across a room, or feel stiffness after sitting in a chair, the backbone was part of animals whose bodies met the world in other ways. In many mammals, the spine stretches more horizontally through the body. It helps transfer movement between the limbs. It bends as the animal runs, crouches, climbs, digs, or turns. It does not spend most of its life acting like a vertical mast. In primates, the story becomes more complex. The back works with shoulders that can reach widely, hands that can grasp, hips that can flex, and limbs that may move through trees or across uneven ground. The spine is not passive in that world. It helps the body adjust to angles, surfaces, and shifts in weight, but the pressure is distributed differently from the pressure that a human lower back feels when a person stands upright for a long time. This difference is important because the human spine was not newly invented when upright walking became central. It was inherited, altered, and asked to do work that older versions of the body had not carried in the same way. When people imagine evolution, they sometimes picture a clean ladder, as if one form simply replaced another form with a better one. The real story is quieter and less tidy. Bones, joints, muscles, and nerves are modified over time. A structure that once served one set of movements may be drawn into another set. The back is a clear example of this. Its older role was not erased. It was reorganized around a body that increasingly balanced above 2 legs. The head needed to sit more directly over the spine. The trunk needed to remain stable while the legs moved below it. The pelvis had to support organs and connect the spine to powerful lower limbs. The lower back had to curve in a way that helped place the upper body over the hips. These changes made upright walking possible and efficient, but they did not turn the spine into a simple column. It remained jointed, flexible, sensitive, and dependent on many other parts of the body. This is why the phrase standing upright can sound easier than the reality. To stand is not merely to be vertical, it is to balance a heavy upper body over a narrow base. It is to let small muscles correct the body again and again. It is to keep the head, ribs, pelvis, knees, and feet in conversation with gravity. The lower back sits near the center of that conversation. It receives forces from above and below. It responds when the hips are tight, when the feet are tired, when the abdomen is relaxed, when breathing changes, when one shoulder carries more than the other, or when a person leans without noticing. None of these things are strange. They are ordinary consequences of a spine that was adapted into upright life rather than created from nothing for upright life. The ancient beginning of the back helps explain why small modern moments can feel larger than they appear. A person may bend to tie a shoe or reach for something on the floor, and the movement seems harmless. But in that moment, the lower spine may be acting as a hinge, a stabilizer, and a pathway for nerve signals all at once. It may be compensating for hips that do not bend easily, legs that are tired, or a trunk that has been held still for too long. The pain may feel sudden, but the strain may have been gathering quietly. In an older environment, the body's movements were likely more mixed and variable, though we should be careful not to imagine prehistoric life as perfectly natural or free from pain. The point is not that the past was ideal. The point is that the spine's long inheritance was shaped through changing physical demands, not through long stillness in one repeated posture. Before humans stood upright as their defining way of moving, the back belonged to a body plan in which load, balance, and movement were shared more broadly. Once upright walking became central, that older spine entered a new arrangement. It became the living bridge between an ancient animal inheritance and the human way of moving through the world. When the direction of human movement changed, the back did not simply move into a new position, it entered a new responsibility. A spine that had once worked within a more varied primate body now had to help organize an upright body from the center. This shift was not a single moment, and it should not be imagined as one ancient creature suddenly standing up and becoming human. It was a long process shaped by many changes in the pelvis, legs, feet, skull, muscles, and patterns of movement. But the result was clear enough. More of the body's weight had to be managed above two supporting limbs, and the spine became one of the main structures holding that arrangement together. The lower back especially became important in a new way. It had to help place the trunk over the hips so that walking did not require constant falling forward. It had to allow the body to bend and turn, while still keeping the upper body stable enough for the legs to move underneath. It had to protect the spinal cord, carry signals from the body, and remain flexible enough for daily life. These demands did not replace one another. They stacked together. That is part of the ancient reason the human back can be so useful and so vulnerable at the same time. A structure asked to do several jobs may succeed for a lifetime, yet still become sensitive when the balance between those jobs is disturbed. Upright walking gave early humans and their relatives a remarkable path. It helped make long travel possible. It helped free the hands from constant support on the ground. It allowed carrying, reaching, tool use, and social care to become more important in daily survival. But the back had to join this new way of being. The spine was no longer just a flexible line within a body moving through many angles. It became part of a vertical balance system. The head rested above it, the ribs hung from it, the pelvis received it, the legs moved below it. Every step passed force upward from the ground and downward from the body. The back became the middle of that exchange. This is why even quiet standing is not truly quiet. The body sways slightly. The feet adjust. The hips settle. The lower back makes small corrections that most people never feel until those corrections become tiring. If one part of the chain stops sharing the work well, the back may take more than its share. That can happen in a forest path, on stone ground, on a farm, in a factory, in a kitchen, or at a desk. The setting changes, but the old responsibility remains. The back must keep the upright body organized against gravity. The ancient shift towards standing also changed the meaning of bending. For a body that is already horizontal or angled forward, the the spine may bend as part of a broader pattern of limb movement. For an upright human, bending forward changes the relationship between the trunk and the pelvis. The upper body becomes a load that must be controlled. Muscles along the back and hips must slow the motion, hold the position, and raise the body again. This can happen gently and safely many times, but when fatigue, stiffness, surprise, or repetition enter the picture, a small bend can become more demanding than it looks. This does not mean the human back is fragile in a simple sense. It means the back lives inside a body plan built from compromise. The upright posture that makes human walking efficient also creates moments where leverage, load, and balance concentrate in the lower spine. The same curve that helps the body stand can become a place where pressure is focused. The same flexibility that allows turning can become a place where tissues are irritated. The same nervous system that protects the spine can make pain feel strong when it senses threat, strain, or uncertainty. Long ago, as the human line moved further into life on two legs, the back became a keeper of balance between old anatomy and new movement. It carried the memory of earlier bodies while serving a newer way of traveling through the world. That memory is still present each time the modern body rises, bends, carries, twists, or stands still under its own weight. The ancient change did not make the back weak. It made the back central. Walking on two legs is one of the great human abilities, but it did not come without cost. When the hands no longer had to press against the ground for ordinary travel, they became available for other things. They could carry food, hold a child, shape a tool, gather materials, point, touch, and cooperate. This freedom of the hands became deeply important in the human story. Yet the body could not receive that freedom without shifting pressure somewhere else. Work that had once been spread more broadly across several limbs became concentrated through the hips, legs, feet, and lower back. The spine had to join a new pattern of balance, and the lower back became one of the places where the price of upright life was quietly paid. This does not mean walking on two legs was a bad solution. It was a powerful one. It helped human ancestors travel and use the arms for tasks beyond locomotion. But evolution preserves what works under real conditions. It does not erase every future strain. The upright back supported a new way of life, yet it also created demands that older body plans did not carry in the same form. In a four-limbed stance, weight can be shared through front and back limbs, and the spine often works more like a flexible beam between them. In an upright human, the upper body rises above the pelvis. The head, chest, abdomen, and arms become a vertical load balanced over two legs. The pelvis becomes a base. The lower spine becomes a curved support between the trunk and the hips. The feet become the points of contact with the ground. This arrangement is remarkable, but it is also narrow. The body is tall, mobile, and constantly correcting itself. Even standing still requires small adjustments. The ankles respond, the knees soften, the hips settle. The muscles of the trunk make quiet corrections to keep the body from leaning too far. Most of these actions are too small to notice, but they are part of why the back is never entirely off duty. Long before modern floors and office chairs, upright humans carried this need for balance. The ancient body did not stand as a statue. It stood as a living system negotiating gravity. The cost becomes clearer when the hands are considered. Free hands expanded what humans could do, but carrying also changed how force entered the spine. A tool in one hand, food held against the body, a child resting on the hip, or a bundle carried over distance all shift the body's center of mass. The back must respond. It may lean slightly. It may tighten one side more than the other. It may use the hips and abdomen to stabilize the load. Such work can be useful and ordinary, but it shows how the freedom of the arms is linked to the burden of the trunk. The hands can hold the world because the spine, pelvis, and legs quietly organize the body beneath them. This is one of the oldest human trade-offs. The same body plan that allowed carrying also made the lower back a meeting place for load, balance, and movement. Modern life changes the form of this trade-off, but it does not remove it. A person may not be carrying stone, wood, water, or a child over rough ground, yet the back still responds to loads created by bags, screens, steering wheels, work counters, beds, and chairs. Even the weight of the head becomes meaningful when held forward for long periods. A small object lifted from the floor can feel heavier to the back if the trunk is tired or if the hips are not sharing the motion. These pressures are not identical to ancient pressures, but they meet the same old anatomy. The spine still has to hold the upper body above the pelvis. The lower back still has to curve, stabilize, and move. The hands are still free, and because they are free, they still ask the rest of the body to support what they do. When the back hurts easily, it may be revealing an old exchange. The hands became free, and the spine became responsible. The human spine is not straight, and this is not an accident. Its curves help the body stand, walk, and keep the head balanced above the pelvis. From the side, the spine bends gently inward at the neck, outward through the upper back, inward again at the lower back, and then into the pelvis. These curves allow the body to distribute weight, absorb forces, and remain upright without every step becoming a struggle. In a quiet way, the curves are part of the solution that made human movement possible. Yet the same solution also carries a cost. A curved structure does not receive pressure in the same way as a simple post. Force moves through it unevenly. Some areas compress more than others. Some joints guide motion while also resisting it. Some muscles must remain active to prevent the body from folding, leaning, or twisting too far. The lower back, with its inward curve, sits at a difficult meeting point. Above it is the weight of the trunk, ribs, head, and arms. Below it are the pelvis, hips, legs, and feet. It must let the body bend forward, return upright, rotate gently, and adjust during walking. At the same time, it must help keep the upper body from falling out of balance. This is why the curve that helps a person stand can also become a place where strain gathers. It is not a sign that the curve is wrong. It is a sign that the curve has to do several jobs at once. In the long human story, the lower back became one of the key regions where upright walking was made possible. The pelvis changed shape. A curve. The legs became the main engines of travel. The feet became stable platforms. The skull balanced more directly over the spine, but the body still needed flexibility. A completely rigid upright column would have made human life awkward and limited. A person could not easily look down, reach toward the ground, turn toward a sound, carry something against one side, or adjust to uneven terrain. The spine had to keep movement available, so the body kept a curved, jointed living spine rather than a solid rod. That choice, written slowly by evolution rather than made consciously, gave humans both freedom and vulnerability. The back can adapt to many positions, but it can also be irritated by repeated positions. It can support weight, but it can also become tired when the same tissues are asked to support too much for too long. It can bend, but bending changes the load. It can twist, but twisting while loaded can be more demanding than twisting alone. These are not rare events. They are ordinary facts of being upright. A human body lives above a small base, and the spine helps keep that vertical life possible. The ancient origin matters because the curve of the lower back was not designed for modern stillness. It was part of a moving body. It worked with steps, shifting ground, changing posture, rest, and repeated small adjustments. When movement is varied, pressure may move from one tissue to another. When posture is fixed, pressure may remain in the same region for a long time. A person seated for hours may not feel heavy because sitting seems like rest. But the lower back may still be held in a narrow pattern. Muscles may become quiet in some places and overactive in others. Discs and joints may receive pressure in a repeated direction. Then, when the person stands and bends, the spine is asked to change quickly from stillness to motion. The discomfort that follows may seem sudden, but the background was already being written. This is why the curves of the spine are both helpful and delicate. They do not make humans broken, they make humans balanced through compromise. The inward curve of the lower back helps place the trunk over the hips, but it also creates a region where posture, load, fatigue, and movement meet. The upper back helps shape the chest and support breathing, but its stiffness or rounding can change what the lower back must do. The neck holds the head and allows vision to move, but the head's position can influence tension below. The spine is one continuous conversation, not a stack of isolated parts. Its curves keep the body upright, but they also make pain easier to understand. The back hurts so easily because the very shape that allows human balance also creates places where small changes can be felt deeply. Long ago, standing upright gave humans a new relationship with the ground. The body rose, the hands opened, the gaze moved outward, and the spine curved to carry that new life. The curve was a gift, but not a free one. Humans are unusually good at traveling on two legs. A person can walk for a long time, across roads, fields, hills, rooms, and paths, often without thinking about the back at all. This quiet ability can make the body seem more effortless than it really is. Each step is a small transfer of weight. The foot meets the ground, the leg receives force, the pelvis shifts, the spine adjusts, the head remains balanced enough for the eyes to stay steady, the arms swing or carry, the body moves forward without falling. What feels simple is actually a repeated act of control. The lower back participates in this act every time, not as a loud engine, but as a central stabilizer. It helps connect the movement of the legs to the position of the trunk. It allows the body to move while keeping enough order for balance. This is one of the great successes of human evolution, and also one of the reasons the back can become tired before the mind expects it. The system works best when effort is shared. The feet, ankles, knees, hips, pelvis, ribs, abdomen, and back all contribute. But when any part of this chain becomes stiff, weak, fatigued, or held in one pattern for too long, the lower back may take more of the work. It may rotate a little more because the hips rotate less. It may tighten because the trunk needs stability. It may feel pressure because the pelvis is not moving freely. The pain that appears may seem local, but the cause may belong to the whole upright system. This is why the ancient cost of standing on two legs is not only found in bones, it is found in coordination. The human body must constantly organize itself above 2 feet, and the back sits near the middle of that organization. In a moving ancestral landscape, the body likely faced many changing demands: uneven ground, slopes, soft soil, stones, roots, distance, weather, and the need to carry or search. We should not imagine that this life was easy or painless. It was not a perfect natural gym, but it did ask the body to vary its movements. Steps changed, rest positions changed, loads changed. The back worked within a pattern of continual adjustment. Modern life often narrows that pattern. Many people move between chair, car, bed, and flat floor. The body may spend hours with the hips folded, the spine rounded or held stiff, the head leaning forward, and the legs doing little. Then it may be asked to climb stairs, lift a bag, twist toward a child, reach into a trunk, or bend over a sink. The back may not fail, but it may protest. It has been built for movement, yet surrounded by long pauses. It has been shaped for endurance, yet asked to endure stillness. There is a deep irony in this. Humans gain the ability to walk far, but many modern back pains come from days in which the body barely travels. The old upright system remains, but the rhythm around it has changed. The lower back still expects help from the hips and legs. It still depends on changes in posture and load. It still responds to fatigue, breath, tension, and recovery. When those conditions are uneven, the back may become the place where the imbalance is felt first. This does not mean that every ache is dangerous, and it does not mean pain should be ignored. It means the back is a sensitive part of a larger structure, one that was shaped by movement rather than by perfect comfort. The human spine made long walking possible because it could balance flexibility with support. But that balance is not automatic forever. It must be renewed again and again through the way the whole body is used. The same back that helped carry humans across landscapes can become sore after a small daily task, because its ancient work has never really ended. It still holds the trunk over the hips. It still steadies the body above the feet. It still turns the freedom of the hands into a burden for the center of the body. Humans can walk far, stand tall, and carry the world in their arms, but the price is a back that must constantly negotiate between strength and strain. The back is often imagined as a column, but a column is too simple. A column mainly holds weight from above. The human back does something more difficult. It behaves more like a living bridge, stretched between the head, ribs, arms, pelvis, and legs. It carries weight, but it also transfers movement. It stabilizes, but it also bends. It protects the spinal cord, but it also allows the body to reach toward the world. A bridge must be strong enough to hold, flexible enough to absorb, and connected well enough at both ends to share pressure. The human back has all of these duties, and this is one reason it can hurt from ordinary life. The lower back does not work alone. It receives force from the ground through the feet and legs. It receives weight from the trunk, shoulders, head, and arms. It answers the position of the pelvis. It responds to the breath moving through the ribs. It changes when the arms reach forward, when one hand carries a bag, when the head leans toward a screen, or when the body turns before the feet have moved. In each of these moments, the back is not simply holding the body up. It is passing information and force from one region to another. This is why pain in the back can come from patterns that do not seem to belong to the back at first. Stiff hips can make the lower spine move more. Tired legs can change how the pelvis settles. Rounded shoulders can change the workload below. A heavy object held in the hands can ask the trunk to brace before the mind even notices. The ancient story helps make sense of this. As humans became upright walkers, the back became the central bridge of a changed body. The hands were freed, but they did not become free without consequence. Every time the hands carry, pull, lift, push, or reach, the spine and pelvis must organize the rest of the body beneath them. In earlier primate movement, the arms, shoulders, spine, and hips often shared locomotion in different ways. In the human line, travel became more centered on the legs, while the arms became available for tasks that could be separate from walking. This created a new kind of connection. The back had to link a mobile upper body with a walking lower body. It had to keep the trunk steady while the legs alternated below it. It had to allow the arms to act freely without letting the whole body fall out of balance. That is not the work of a simple column. It is the work of a bridge under changing loads. The bridge idea also explains why small actions can matter. When a person bends to pick up a light object, the object may not be heavy, but the upper body itself has moved forward. The back must control that forward shift. When a person twists while reaching behind, the movement may feel small, but the spine, ribs, pelvis, and hips must divide the rotation. When a person stands at a counter for a long time, there may be no dramatic load, but the same tissues may hold a quiet position until they become tired. The pain that follows is not necessarily proof of a serious injury. It may be a sign that the bridge has been asked to hold one pattern too long, or to change load before the rest of the body is ready to help. Ancient human life likely involved many kinds of movement, but not perfect safety. Carrying, walking, crouching, climbing, resting on uneven ground, and rising again would have placed real demands on the back. The difference is that the back was rarely only a passive support. It was part of a whole moving body. Modern life can narrow the bridge's work into repeated shapes. Sitting with the hips folded, standing with weight on one side, reaching with the head forward, lifting after long stillness. The old bridge still tries to do its job. It still connects upper and lower body. It still turns the freedom of the hands into stability through the center. It still negotiates with gravity each moment a person is awake. When the back hurts easily, it may be because this bridge is not failing as much as speaking. It is reminding the body that strength and flexibility were always meant to be shared across the whole human frame. A bridge becomes most stressed when its load keeps changing, and the human back lives under changing load almost all the time. It is easy to notice the back during a heavy lift, but much of its work happens in smaller moments. A person leans over a table. The spine bends slightly. The ribs shift forward. The pelvis tilts. The muscles along the back slow the motion so the body does not collapse into gravity. A person turns to reach for something beside the bed. The shoulders rotate, the ribs follow. The hips may or may not move, and the lower back must decide how much of that turn it will accept. A person sits for a long time, then stands quickly. The back changes from a folded position to an upright one, while the hips, abdomen, and legs try to return to their share of the work. These moments can feel too ordinary to matter, but they are exactly where the back's ancient role becomes visible. It was not shaped only to hold one posture. It was shaped to respond again and again as weight moved through the body. When humans became more upright, The spine became the place where motion from above and motion from below had to meet. The head and arms could move in many directions, while the legs carried the body forward. Between them, the trunk had to remain stable enough for balance and loose enough for action. That demand still exists when a modern person bends over a sink, reaches into a cabinet, lifts a bag from the floor, or turns while stepping out of a car. The back is not simply moving, it is changing its job from moment to moment. In one instant it holds, in another it guides, in another it brakes. In another it transfers force from the legs into the arms. This is why a single movement can become uncomfortable even when it does not look dangerous. The body may not be responding only to the movement itself. It may be responding to the condition of the bridge before the movement began. If the back has been held in one position for hours, its tissues may be less ready for sudden change. If the hips have not moved much, the lower spine may take more bending than usual. If the shoulders and ribs are stiff, a turn may travel downward into the low back. If the person is tired, the muscles that normally share the load may react later or with less coordination. The ancient human body was not free from these problems, but its daily movement was likely more mixed. Bending, walking, crouching, carrying, resting and rising were not separated into neat blocks. Movement came through tasks and terrain. The body changed shape often because the world around it was irregular. The back's bridge-like nature suited that kind of life, because pressure could shift across many tissues. In modern life, the same bridge often faces a narrower rhythm. Long stillness, short bursts of effort, repeated forward head posture, soft seats, flat floors, and predictable surfaces all change how the load is distributed. The back may hold quiet tension while the person thinks nothing is happening. Then, when a bend or twist finally arrives, the pain seems to come from nowhere, but the back had already been working. It had been holding a pattern, waiting for help from hips, legs, ribs, breath, and attention. This does not mean every bend is unsafe, or every twist should be feared. The human spine is capable of bending and turning. Those movements are part of its nature. The problem comes when movement loses variety, when load becomes repetitive, or when the body asks one area to do the work of many. The back hurts so easily because it is positioned at the crossing point of many demands. It carries the ancient memory of upright balance, the practical burden of free hands, and the modern habit of long stillness. A small action may simply reveal that the bridge has been carrying more than the mind realized. The back often becomes tired before pain has a clear name. This tiredness may not feel dramatic at first. It may feel like a dull pressure after standing, a mild stiffness after sitting, or a small warning when the body bends forward. Because the signal is quiet, many people ignore it until one ordinary movement turns the background feeling into pain. This is one of the reasons back pain can seem sudden. The final moment may be small, but the load before it was not empty. The human back is constantly responding to small forces that repeat across time. A slight lean while washing dishes, a familiar twist while reaching to one side, a long drive with the hips fixed, a night of poor sleep in one position, or a bag carried on the same shoulder can all become part of the same pattern. Each action alone may be harmless. Together, repeated often enough, they can make certain tissues more sensitive. The spine, muscles, joints, and nerves are living structures. They adapt to what they are asked to do. If the request is varied, the work can be shared. If the request is narrow and repeated, one region may begin to carry the same pressure again and again. This is not a new problem in its deepest form. Human backs have always lived under repeated demands. Long before modern furniture, people walked, bent, lifted, carried, rested, and rose again. They gathered food, moved across ground, handled tools, carried children, and worked with materials. We should not pretend that ancient life was gentle on the body. Bones from past populations often show signs of wear, strain, and injury. The human back has never existed outside effort, but the kind of repetition matters. Repeated movement across varied terrain is not the same as repeated stillness in a chair. Carrying a load while walking is not the same as leaning forward toward a screen for hours. Resting in changing postures is not the same as remaining folded in one position because the work of the day requires it. The ancient back was shaped within a world where movement and rest were woven through the body in many forms. The modern back may face less obvious danger, but more narrow repetition. This difference can help explain why a small daily motion can become painful. The tissues may have been prepared for movement in general, but not for the same angle, the same compression, the same forward bend, or the same asymmetry repeated too long. The lower back is especially exposed because it sits where many forces meet. The weight of the upper body passes through it. The position of the pelvis changes it. The movement of the hips influences it. The reaching of the arms asks it to stabilize. The breath and ribs alter its tension. Even attention and stress can change how the nervous system interprets signals from deep tissues. A person may think only the back is hurting, but the pain may be the final sound of many quiet influences gathering in one place. This is why the back can feel both strong and fragile. It is strong enough to support walking, carrying, bending, and balance across a lifetime. Yet it is sensitive enough to notice when one small pattern has lasted too long. Evolution did not give humans a back that avoids all strain. It gave humans a back capable of managing strain through movement, variation, and shared work across the body. When that sharing becomes uneven, the back may become the messenger. In this sense, pain is not always a simple enemy. It can be an uncomfortable signal from an old system that still tries to protect the body. It tells us that the living bridge has carried repeated force, perhaps quietly, perhaps for longer than we knew. The ancient reason is not that the back is doomed to fail. It is that the back was made central to being human. It carries upright balance, free hands, turning, bending, lifting, breathing, and the daily negotiation with gravity. Small forces matter because they arrive not once, but many times, across a structure that was never a dead column. It is alive, adaptive, and watchful, and sometimes it speaks before the mind is ready to listen. Ancient movement should not be imagined as exercise in the modern sense. It was not a planned hour set aside from the rest of life, measured, repeated, and then finished. Movement was woven into the needs of the day. A body moved because water had to be reached, food had to be searched for, shelter had to be adjusted, tools had to be handled, children had to be carried, firewood or plant material had to be gathered, and the ground itself was rarely arranged for comfort. This kind of movement was not automatically healthy or easy. It could be exhausting, dangerous, and sometimes damaging, but it was varied. That variation matters for the back. The human spine was not shaped around one repeated posture held for hours while the rest of the body stayed quiet. It belonged to a body that changed height, direction, speed, and load. Walking might become squatting. Squatting might become reaching. Reaching might become carrying. Carrying might become resting. Resting might be followed by rising again from the ground. The back did not work as an isolated object. It worked with hips, knees, ankles, ribs, shoulders, hands, and breath. Pressure moved through the body in shifting patterns. No single tissue was meant to become the permanent holder of the same force every day. This is one reason modern back pain can feel so strange. A person may believe the problem comes from not exercising enough, and sometimes low activity can be part of the story. But the older issue is not only the amount of movement. It is the loss of movement variety. A modern person may sit for many hours, then walk a short distance, then sit again, then lift something quickly, then return to stillness. The body has moved, but the pattern has remained narrow. The hips may stay folded, the head may lean forward. The lower back may hold a familiar curve or a familiar collapse. The shoulders may round toward a screen. The feet may spend the day on flat surfaces. Compared with the mixed demands that shape the human body over a long evolutionary history, this is a different kind of life. The back still expects help from many places, but many of those places have been quiet. When the spine is finally asked to bend, twist, or stabilize, it may have fewer partners ready to share the work. This does not mean that the past should be romanticized. Early humans and earlier populations faced injury, fatigue, infection, hunger, cold, and hard physical labor. The body was not protected by nature in a gentle way. Yet the back's design makes more sense in a world where posture changes often. The lower spine can tolerate bending, but it prefers not to be the only hinge. The hips can carry much of a squat or lift, but only if they are used. The ribs and upper back can help rotation, but not if they stay stiff through long stillness. The legs can absorb force from the ground, but not if the whole day has taught them to wait. Ancient movement was whole body movement because survival did not separate the body into neat categories. There was no clean division between work, travel, balance, rest, and carrying. The same spine that helped a person walk also helped them gather, kneel, twist, rise, and hold. Modern exercise can be useful, but it often arrives as a separate event, surrounded by long hours of little change. The back may receive intense demand for a short time, then return to a chair. This separation is new in the long story of the body. The spine was not shaped only for strength. It was shaped for repeated adjustment. When that adjustment disappears, pain may become easier to trigger. A small bend may hurt not because bending is unnatural, but because the body has been denied the slow preparation that varied movement once gave. The ancient reason is quiet but powerful. The human back was made for a life of changing positions, not a life divided between stillness and sudden effort. Walking, crouching, bending, climbing, carrying, and resting were not separate categories in the older human world. They flowed into one another because the landscape and the needs of the day demanded it. A person might walk for a while, stop to examine something near the ground, lower the body into a squat, reach with one hand, steady with the other, rise again, carry a small load, then pause in a different posture. The back in such a life was not held in one shape for long periods. It changed with the body. The hips folded and opened. The knees bent, the ankles adjusted to the ground, the feet felt uneven surfaces, the ribs turned with the shoulders, the head looked down, forward, and to the side. The spine was part of a whole pattern of small transitions. These transitions mattered because they spread effort across many tissues. When the body squats, the hips and legs take much of the work. When it walks, the load moves rhythmically from one side to the other. When it climbs or rises from the ground, the arms, legs, trunk, and breath join together. When it rests in a low position, the body is not necessarily inactive. It is using a different arrangement of joints and muscles. The back benefits from this variety because no single angle dominates every hour. This does not mean ancient movement was ideal or safe. A person could still strain the back, fall, carry too much, become exhausted, or live with pain that left marks on the body. But the rhythm was different from the modern pattern many people know. Modern life often compresses the body into a few repeated positions. Sitting folds the hips. Standing on flat ground fixes the feet in predictable ways. Driving limits the pelvis. Looking at a screen pulls the head and shoulders forward. Sleeping on soft surfaces may keep the body in one comfortable shape for many hours. Then, after this long narrowing, the back is asked to do something more complex. It must lift, twist, carry, or bend before the rest of the body has fully returned to motion. The pain may seem to come from the final action, but the older body was not only responding to that action, it was responding to the loss of the small transitions that should have prepared it. In the long human story, rest itself was probably more varied than it is now, though we should be careful not to describe it too confidently. People could have rested on the ground, against natural supports, in squatting positions, seated postures, curled positions, or lying positions depending on place, culture, age, weather, and task. What matters here is not one exact posture from the past. It is the broader principle that the human body did not emerge from a world of one official sitting position and one official sleeping surface. The back belonged to a body that could shift. It was trained by life to move between levels: ground, knee height, standing height, carrying height, reaching height. Each level asked a different relationship between spine, pelvis, legs, and arms. The modern body still contains that older capacity, but daily life may not invite it very often. A chair removes the need to lower and raise the body fully. A table brings work to one height. A vehicle carries the traveller while the legs remain quiet. A bed lifts the body away from the ground. These inventions are useful, and no one needs to reject comfort to understand the back. The point is that comfort changes the workload. It removes many small movements that once kept the spine in conversation with the rest of the body. Without those movements, the back may become responsible for sudden tasks that should have been shared by the hips, legs, ribs, and shoulders. This is why pain can appear after something ordinary. The ancient back expects a day of changing shapes, but the modern day may offer long stillness, then one sharp demand. The mismatch is not only between past and present, it is between a body built for transitions and a life that often forgets them. The problem of modern movement is not only that there is too little of it, it is that movement has been broken away from the older rhythm of the body. A person may spend most of a day almost still, with the hips folded, the back held in one familiar curve, the shoulders drawn forward, and the eyes fixed at one distance. Then, later, the same body may be asked to move suddenly, perhaps to lift a box, carry groceries, clean a floor, reach into a low cabinet, or bend over a child. The movement itself may not be extreme, but it arrives after a long quiet period in which many joints and muscles have not been sharing work. The ancient body did not know this rhythm in the same way. It knew tiredness, danger, strain, and injury, but its movement was usually tied to the tasks of living. Walking was not a separate health activity. Carrying was not only a workout. Squatting was not a special mobility exercise. Rising from the ground was not a test of fitness. These actions were simply ways the body met the world. Because of that, the back received motion through many small changes, not only through sudden demands after long stillness. This difference matters because the spine depends on the rest of the body more than we often realize. The lower back is not meant to be the only place where bending happens. The hips are meant to fold, the knees are meant to soften, the ankles are meant to adjust, the ribs and upper back are meant to help rotation, the abdomen and deep trunk muscles are meant to support without becoming rigid. When daily life reduces these contributions, the lower spine can become the worker of last resort. It bends because the hips do not. It twists because the ribs do not. It tightens because the body needs stability from somewhere. It aches because the same tissues have been asked to hold too much of the same pattern. This is why saying that people simply need more exercise is often incomplete. A short period of exercise cannot fully replace a day of missing variation if the rest of life keeps the body fixed. The back was shaped through a long history in which movement was distributed across time. The body changed levels, changed surfaces, changed loads, and changed directions. Even rest could involve different shapes. Modern routines often remove those changes. Floors are flat, numb, chairs are predictable, work is brought to one height. Screens hold the head and hands in front of the body. Vehicles reduce walking while keeping the spine seated. Beds and couches support comfort, but also allow long periods without adjustment. None of these things are evil. They are human inventions created to reduce hardship. But comfort can quietly narrow the conversation between the spine and the world. The back does not need constant punishment to remain capable. It needs a living rhythm of use, rest, and change. When that rhythm becomes too narrow, pain can become easier to trigger. The ancient reason humans still carry is not a single weakness hidden in one bone or one muscle. It is a mismatch between an old body built for varied transitions and a new world that often asks for stillness, then effort, then stillness again. The spine still belongs to a moving animal. It still expects the hips, legs, ribs, shoulders, breath, and attention to join its work. When those partners are silent for too long, the back may speak for all of them. A small ache can then become a message from a much older body, saying that movement was never meant to be separated from life so completely. Sitting looks like rest, and this is why it can deceive the body. When a person sits down, the legs stop carrying full body weight, the feet become quiet, and the mind may feel relief. But the back has not disappeared from work. It has simply entered a different kind of work, one that can be more silent and more repetitive than standing or walking. In a chair, the hips are folded, the pelvis is held by the seat, and the lower spine often loses some of the natural movement it would have during walking, squatting, or shifting on uneven ground. The body may feel supported, but support is not the same as freedom. A chair can hold the body in a narrow shape for a long time. The back may round slightly, or it may arch too much, or it may become stiff while trying to remain upright. The muscles do not always work strongly in this position, yet some of them keep a low level of tension. Other tissues, such as discs, ligaments, and joints, may receive pressure in one direction for many minutes or hours. Nothing dramatic has happened. so the person assumes the back is resting. But the ancient back was not shaped around this kind of long, still folding. It was shaped in a body that changed positions often, moving between standing, walking, crouching, turning, carrying, and resting in different ways. Sitting in itself is not unnatural. Humans have always rested. People can sit on the ground, on stones, on logs, on built surfaces, or in many postures shaped by culture and environment. The problem is not the existence of sitting. The problem is the modern habit of sitting as a fixed arrangement, repeated for much of the day, often with the same height, same angle, same forward gaze, and same quiet legs. This changes the burden of the back. When the hips stay folded, the muscles around them may become less ready to open fully. When the pelvis stays still, the lower spine may lose some of the small adjustments that normally come from shifting weight. When the head leans forward toward a page or a screen, the upper back and neck may add tension that travels through the trunk. When the feet do little, the chain from ground to spine becomes less active. The body is not failing because it sits. It is responding to a posture that has become too dominant. The ancient reason matters here because the human back is a structure of transition. It works best when pressure changes shape. Walking moves load from side to side. Squatting changes the relationship between hips and spine. Rising from the ground asks the legs, trunk, and arms to coordinate. Carrying changes the center of mass and invites the body to adjust. These variations can be tiring, but they also distribute work. A long chair posture can remove many of those changes. The back then becomes a quiet holder of stillness. It may not hurt at first because the nervous system allows the position, and the tissues tolerate it. But tolerance is not endless. After enough repetition, the same posture can make the back feel stiff, dull, or easily irritated when movement returns. This is why pain may appear not while sitting, but after standing up. The body changes from folded stillness to upright balance, and the lower back must quickly rejoin the hips, legs, and pelvis. If those regions are slow to share the work, the back may feel the transition sharply. This is not a moral failure, and it is not proof that comfort is bad. Chairs, vehicles, desks, and soft furniture are human tools created to reduce effort and organize life. But every tool changes the body's workload. The chair gives rest to the legs, yet it may ask the spine to accept a long, quiet load. The ancient body inside modern life still expects movement to arrive in many forms. When it receives mostly stillness, the back may be the first place where that old expectation is felt. When a body sits for a long time, the work of the back changes in a quiet and uneven way. Some muscles become less active because the chair is doing part of the holding. The legs are no longer pushing the body through space. The hips are no longer opening and closing through a full range. The feet are no longer reading the ground. The pelvis rests against a surface that decides much of its position. In that stillness, certain muscles can grow sleepy, not in the sense that they are permanently weak, but in the sense that they are not being asked to join the conversation moment by moment. At the same time, other tissues remain on duty. Small muscles near the spine may hold a low effort for a long time. The neck and upper back may tighten around the position of the head. The lower back may either round into the chair or brace to keep the body upright. The abdomen may become quiet. The hip flexors may stay shortened. The body is not resting as a whole. It is dividing rest and tension in an uneven pattern. This is why sitting can leave a person feeling stiff, even after doing almost nothing. The ancient back was not shaped for a day in which the strongest demand is to hold the same angle. It was shaped within a body that received information through movement. In a more varied day, muscles would take turns. The hips would fold, then open. The spine would bend, then lengthen. The legs would carry, then rest. The shoulders would reach, then release. The body would not be perfectly safe or perfectly balanced, but its work would be distributed through change. A fixed chair posture removes much of that distribution. The back may then become one of the places where the cost of stillness gathers. This cost is not always dramatic. It can feel like a dull ache, a sense of pressure, or a reluctance to stand fully upright. It can feel as if the body has become older in only a few hours. But what has often happened is simpler and older. The tissues have been asked to hold a pattern longer than they prefer. The human nervous system notices patterns. It notices tension, pressure, fatigue, and uncertainty. When the same signals repeat, the system may begin to treat them as more important. This is one reason pain can grow without a clear injury. A back can become sensitive because the nervous system has been listening to quiet discomfort for too long. Sitting also changes how movement returns. After long stillness, standing is not just standing. It is a transition from folded hips to open hips, from a supported pelvis to a balancing pelvis, from quiet feet to active feet, from a held spine to a moving spine. If the hips do not open easily, the lower back may arch or tighten. If the legs feel inactive, the trunk may brace. If the head stays forward, the upper spine may remain tense. The body rises, but the sitting pattern may rise with it. This is how a chair can leave a trace after the person has already stood up. In the long history of humans, resting postures were likely more diverse, shaped by ground, climate, culture, age, tools, and work. We should not turn this into a simple claim that old ways were always better. Many past lives involved hardship and pain. But the modern chair is unusual in how easily it allows the same posture to continue for hours. It reduces effort, which can be useful, yet it also reduces the small muscular decisions that keep the body alert and shared. The back then carries a strange burden, not the burden of heavy labor, but the burden of being held too quietly. When pain appears after sitting, it may not be because sitting has damaged the back in a simple way. It may be because the ancient spine, made for a changing body, has spent too long inside a shape that asks some parts to sleep while others quietly guard. The world of chairs, desks, vehicles, and screens is very young compared with the body that now lives inside it. A person can spend the morning seated at a table, travel while seated, work while seated, rest while seated, and then lie down on a surface designed to remove pressure as much as possible. From the mind's point of view, this may feel like comfort. From the older body's point of view, it is a strange arrangement. The spine, pelvis, hips, feet, and shoulders are placed into shapes that repeat across the day, while the eyes and hands do most of the visible work. The body is still ancient in its deeper organization. It still carries the structure of an upright walker, a carrier, a ground mover, a creature whose back was shaped through transitions of height, load, direction, and balance. But the modern environment often asks that ancient system to stay quiet for long stretches, then perform quickly when needed. This is where the burden changes. The chair gives the legs a rest, but it also teaches the hips to remain folded. The desk gives the hands a stable place, but it can pull the head, shoulders, and ribs forward. The vehicle moves the person across distance, but the spine experiences travel without walking. The screen holds attention in front of the body, while the rest of the body waits in a narrow posture. None of these inventions are wrong by themselves. They are tools, and tools are part of being human. The deeper issue is that every tool changes which tissues work and which tissues fall silent. For most of human history, the body met the world through direct movement. Ground had to be crossed. Objects had to be lifted from uneven places. Rest often required the body to lower itself and rise again. A person's posture was shaped by weather, terrain, task, and available materials. Today, many of those small demands have been removed. The body is protected from some hardship, but it also loses many small invitations to move. The back feels this loss because it depends on the rest of the body for shared support. When the feet do not carry much, the hips do not open often, the ribs do not turn freely, and the shoulders remain rounded, the lower back may become the place where the whole pattern finally becomes noticeable. A small ache can therefore be a signal from a much larger mismatch. It is not saying that modern life is evil, or that ancient life was perfect. It is saying that a very old spine has entered a very new room. The room has flat floors, padded seats, fixed work heights, glowing surfaces, and long periods in which movement is optional rather than necessary. The spine can adapt to this for a while. The body is flexible and patient, but adaptation has limits. If the same posture dominates too long, the back may become less tolerant of sudden bending, lifting, or twisting. If the nervous system has been receiving quiet signals of stiffness or fatigue, it may become more protective. If the tissues around the spine have not been asked to share many directions of movement, One ordinary action may feel unexpectedly sharp. This is why the ancient reason humans still carry is not hidden in a single bone. It is carried in the relationship between the body and its surroundings. The back evolved as part of a moving life, but now it often lives inside furniture. It evolved to balance the trunk above the hips, but now it may spend hours folded at the hips. It evolved with walking as a common rhythm, but now distance can be crossed while the legs remain almost still. Comfort has reduced many old dangers, yet it has also changed the quiet daily education of the spine. The back learns from what the day repeats. If the day repeats stillness, the back becomes shaped by stillness. If the day repeats one angle, one reach, one lean, one seated form, the body begins to treat that form as normal until another demand breaks the pattern. Then pain can appear, not as a mystery from nowhere, but as an old body meeting a new environment too suddenly. The ancient spine has not betrayed us. It has simply followed us into a world it was never fully shaped to expect. The back does not carry only the weight that can be measured by the body. It also carries the way a person breathes, rests, worries, sleeps, stands, waits, and moves through the day. This does not mean back pain is imaginary. Pain is real when it is felt. But the back belongs to a living nervous system, not to a silent machine. Its tissues send signals, and the brain gives those signals meaning based on many conditions at once. A tired body can feel a small ache more strongly. A stressed body can tighten before a person notices. A poorly rested body may have less patience for the same pressure that yesterday felt harmless. The spine is mechanical, but it is also biological. Bones, discs, muscles, joints, fascia, nerves, blood flow, sleep, emotion, and attention all meet in the experience of pain. This is why two people can have similar postures and different pain, or why the same person can feel more pain during one week than another without a clear new injury. The back is not only reacting to load, it is reacting to the whole state of the organism. This idea reaches back into the ancient human body because survival never depended on muscles and bones alone. A moving body also needed a nervous system that could detect threat, fatigue, strain, and changing conditions. Pain was part of that protective system. It warned the body to slow down, change position, guard an area, or rest. The signal did not need to be perfectly precise to be useful. It only needed to help protect the living body. In modern life, the same protective system remains. But now, the signals may be shaped by long hours of sitting, low movement variety, poor sleep, worry, repeated stress, and the quiet pressure of attention held in one place. The back may tighten not because the person is weak, but because the nervous system is preparing the body for effort or protection. When stress rises, breathing can become shallower, the ribs may move less freely, the shoulders may lift, the jaw may tighten, the abdomen may brace. These changes seem far away from the lower back, but the body does not divide itself so neatly. The spine is connected to the ribs, pelvis, hips, neck, and breath. A change in one region can change the tone of another. A person who stands under pressure may stand differently from a person who feels safe and rested. A person who sleeps badly may wake with tissues already more sensitive. A person who has feared back pain before may move more carefully, and that carefulness can sometimes create more tension. None of this should be turned into blame. It is not a failure of character. It is the ancient nervous system doing what it has always done, reading the body and the environment together. The back carries more than weight because humans are not just upright skeletons. They are alert animals with memory, expectation, fatigue, and emotion. Long ago, a sore back, a strained hip, or a tired leg could affect the ability to walk, gather, carry, escape danger, or remain with the group. The nervous system therefore learned to treat bodily signals seriously. Today, the danger may not be a wild landscape. It may be a deadline, a sleepless night, a long drive, a heavy mood, or a day without enough movement. But the body still speaks through ancient channels. Muscles tighten, breath changes, attention narrows, pain becomes louder. This is why back pain can feel so personal. It appears in a place that holds us upright, and it often arrives when the whole person is already carrying too much. The ancient reason is not only in the curve of the spine or the shape of the pelvis, it is also in the protective system that surrounds them. The back hurts easily because it is both structure and signal. It carries the body, but it also reports on the body's condition. Sometimes the pain begins in load, sometimes it is sharpened by tension, sometimes it grows in the space between fatigue and fear. The back is where gravity, movement, memory, and stress quietly meet. Pain is not only a message from tissue, it is also a message interpreted by the brain, and the brain never interprets the body in isolation. It listens through the condition of the whole person. After a night of poor sleep, the same pressure in the lower back may feel sharper. After many days of worry, a mild stiffness may become harder to ignore. After long fatigue, muscles may guard sooner, movements may become smaller, and the nervous system may become more alert to signals that would normally remain in the background. This does not make the pain false. It makes pain biological. The body is not a machine with a simple alarm attached to one damaged piece. It is a living system that decides, often without conscious thought, how much protection is needed. The back is especially affected by this because it sits at the center of movement and safety. If the back feels threatened, the body may slow down. It may tighten. It may reduce bending. It may make ordinary movements feel risky. These reactions can be useful for protection in the short term, but they can also make the back feel more fragile if they continue too long. This is one reason back pain can grow during periods when no new injury seems to have happened. The spine, muscles, and joints may be receiving ordinary signals, but the nervous system may be reading them through a louder filter. In the ancient human body, this protective sensitivity had value. A body that could notice strain and force a change in behavior had a better chance of avoiding deeper harm. Pain could make a person rest a sore area, protect a wound, avoid a dangerous movement, or pay attention to fatigue before collapse. But the signal did not need to be perfectly accurate. It was not designed to produce a clear medical report. It was designed to protect a living creature under uncertain conditions. That older protective logic still remains inside modern pain. The difficulty is that modern conditions can keep the protective system switched on, even when the danger is not simple or immediate. A person may sit too long, sleep poorly, feel pressure from work, worry about money, remember a previous painful episode, and then bend down to lift something light. The lift may become the moment when pain appears, but the nervous system has been gathering context all day. It has heard fatigue. It has heard tension. It has heard stillness. It has heard expectation. When the signal from the back arrives, the brain may treat it as more important because the whole body is already under strain. This is why the back can hurt more when life feels heavy, even if the physical task is small. The ancient reason is not mysterious or magical. It is the same protective biology that once helped humans survive in environments where injury, exhaustion, weather, hunger, and distance mattered. Today, those pressures have changed form. The body may not be crossing a dangerous landscape, but it may still behave as if it must protect its center. Stress can change breathing. Shallow breathing can reduce movement through the ribs. Less rib movement can alter trunk tension. Tense shoulders can change how the upper back rests. A guarded abdomen can change how the lower spine feels. Poor sleep can make pain pathways more sensitive. Fear of pain can make movement stiff, and stiff movement can feed more discomfort. The chain is not always dramatic, but it is real enough to be felt. This is why telling someone that back pain is only posture, or only weakness, or only stress, is too simple. The back is where many systems meet. A real sensation may begin in muscle, joint, disc, ligament, or nerve tissue, but the final experience is shaped by the brain's understanding of the body's safety. The ancient spine carries weight, but the ancient nervous system carries warning. Together they create the feeling that the back can hurt from very little. Sometimes the body is not saying that something has broken. It may be saying that too many signals have gathered, and the old protective system has decided to speak loudly before the person can ignore it any longer. Back pain is often described as a mechanical problem, and in many ways it is. The spine has joints. The discs carry pressure. The muscles contract and relax. The ligaments limit movement. The pelvis, hips, ribs, and legs change how force travels through the body. But back pain is never only mechanical, because the back is alive and watched by the nervous system. A stone bridge can crack under load and remain silent. A human back can carry load, adapt to it, warn about it, and sometimes become protective before any clear injury can be named. This is where the ancient story becomes deeper. The human spine became central when upright walking took shape, but the spine did not work alone. It was surrounded by a nervous system that had to judge danger in a changing world. Was the body tired? Was one side strained? Was movement safe? Was rest needed? Was a painful area worth protecting? These questions were not asked in words, and they are still not asked in words. They are answered through sensation, tension, reflex, attention, and pain. The modern person may feel only the result: a stiff lower back after stress, a sharper ache after poor sleep, a sudden warning during a small bend. But the body may be doing something ancient and protective. It may be combining physical load with the state of the whole organism. If the back has been held still, the tissues may send quiet signals. If the person has slept badly, those signals may be amplified. If the mind is worried, muscles may guard before movement begins. If a past episode of pain remains in memory, the body may move with caution, and that caution may change the movement itself. The back becomes the meeting place between old anatomy and old alarm. This is why two forms of truth can exist together. The pain is real, and the cause may not be a single visible damage. The back can hurt because tissues are irritated, and the pain can also be shaped by nervous system sensitivity. The body can be strong and still feel vulnerable. The spine can be capable of bending and still resist bending when the system senses threat. This complexity is not weakness. It is part of how a living body protects itself. In an ancient landscape, ignoring pain could have consequences. A person who continued walking on a strained limb, carrying with an injured back, or moving through exhaustion might become less able to keep up, gather, protect, or recover. Pain helped interrupt behavior. It pushed the body toward caution, but protective signals are not perfect. They lean towards safety, not exactness. A smoke alarm can sound before a house is burning. In the same way, the nervous system can make her back feel dangerous before the danger is severe. This can be frustrating, but it is understandable. The back holds one of the body's central routes of movement. If it feels unsafe, the whole person feels unsafe. Modern conditions can make that ancient alarm easier to trigger. Long sitting creates mechanical stillness. Repeated posture narrows movement. Stress keeps the body alert. Poor sleep lowers tolerance. Fear of pain changes how a person bends or stands. A small load then enters a system already prepared to protect. The pain may seem larger than the action, but the action was only the final signal added to many earlier signals. This is the quiet meeting between mechanics and the nervous system. The spine bears weight from the body, while the brain bears the meaning of that weight. The muscles hold posture, while memory holds past discomfort. The tissues respond to pressure, while attention decides whether a signal remains quiet or becomes impossible to ignore. The ancient reason humans still carry is therefore not only a curved spine or an upright pelvis. It is a body that learned to survive by feeling danger before it was too late. Back pain can be the voice of that old system, speaking through bone, muscle, nerve, fatigue, fear, and gravity at the same time. Humans are not only walkers, they are carriers. This may be one of the most ordinary facts about the human body, but it is also one of the most important for understanding the back. Once the hands became free from the ground during ordinary movement, they did not remain empty. They became tools for bringing things close to the body and moving them through space. Food could be gathered and carried. Stone, wood, fiber, water, and later many kinds of materials could be moved from one place to another. Infants could be held against the chest or hip. Tools could be kept, shared, repaired, and transported. The human world expanded because the hands could carry more than the body itself, but carrying always asks for payment from the rest of the frame. The object may be in the hand, but the burden does not stay there. It travels through the wrist, arm, shoulder, ribs, spine, pelvis, hips, legs, and feet. The back becomes one of the main places where that burden is organized. This is why carrying belongs directly to the story of back pain. A person may feel the weight in the hand or shoulder, yet the lower back is quietly adjusting to keep the body from tipping. If the load is on one side, the trunk may lean or brace. If the load is held in front, the back muscles may work to keep the upper body from being pulled forward. If the load is carried for distance, the spine must repeat small corrections step after step. Even when the load is not heavy, the body must answer its shape, direction, and timing. In ancient human life, carrying was not an occasional inconvenience. It was part of survival and social life. We cannot know every detail for every population, and we should avoid turning prehistory into a simple picture. But it is widely accepted that humans and their ancestors used their hands not only for movement, but for manipulating and transporting things that mattered. This changed what the back had to do. Upright walking gave the hands freedom, and carrying filled that freedom with responsibility. The back became the middle structure between the carried world above and the walking ground below. When a person carries a child, the body does more than hold weight. It changes posture around a living load that moves, shifts, and may be held close for comfort or safety. When a person carries food or materials, the body may choose one side, both hands, the shoulder, the back, or the head depending on culture, tool, terrain, and need. Each method changes the line of force through the spine. Some methods may distribute weight better than others, but none make the back irrelevant. The human spine must still stabilize the trunk as the legs move. The pelvis must still transfer force. The ribs must still support breath. The shoulders must still connect the arms to the center. Carrying reveals that the back is not just a private structure inside one person. It is part of how humans built shared life. To bring food back, to move tools, to hold children, to transport firewood, to carry water, to gather materials for shelter or craft, the body had to make the world portable. This ability helped human groups survive and cooperate, but it also made the back a long-term record of burden. Modern life has changed the objects, not the basic pattern. The load may now be a backpack, a shopping bag, a suitcase, a laptop, a tool belt, a laundry basket, or a child lifted from a car seat. The shape of the burden is modern, but the body receiving it is old. The spine still asks the same question: where is the weight, and how must the body organize itself so it does not fall? This question is answered in muscle tension, posture, breath, step length, and balance. The mind may think only about getting from one room to another, but the back is managing an ancient task. It is turning free hands into controlled movement. When back pain appears after carrying something ordinary, the cause may not be only the weight. It may be the repetition, the asymmetry, the fatigue before the lift, the long sitting before the carry, or the nervous system's sense that the central bridge is under threat. Humans carry because carrying made human life larger. The back hurts because that larger life has always passed through the spine. The ancient burden is not only what we lift, it is the fact that the human body became a way of moving the world with us. Carrying helped humans survive, but survival often leaves its marks on the body that makes it possible. A load does not have to be enormous to change the work of the back. It only has to shift the body away from its quiet balance. When something is held in one hand, the spine answers from the center. When something is lifted from the ground, the hips, legs, and trunk must divide the work. When something is carried close to the chest, the breath may change and the back may brace. When something is carried on the shoulder or across the back, the body must adapt to pressure, rhythm, and distance. These adjustments are normal. They are part of being human, but normal does not mean effortless. Every carried object creates a small negotiation between weight, posture, movement, and fatigue. Over time, those negotiations can become part of the back's history. In the ancient human world, carrying was not simply a task added onto life. It was one of the ways life became possible. Food gathered in one place could be brought to another. Tools could be kept instead of abandoned. Materials for shelter, fire, clothing, or repair could be moved. Children could be held while the group traveled or worked. These actions helped human beings extend care through space. They helped turn the hands into instruments of memory and planning, because what the hands carried could matter later, not only in the present moment. But the spine had to stand between intention and movement. It had to keep the upper body organized while the legs carried the person and the load together. The pelvis had to transfer force. The lower back had to steady the trunk. The shoulders had to connect the arms to the center. The feet had to adjust to the ground below. Carrying, therefore, became a whole-body event, even when the object looked small. This is one reason the back can become a place where old human advantages turn into pain. The ability to carry helped humans build social life, but it also made the body responsible for burdens that other animals might not carry in the same repeated way. A person carrying a child is not only moving weight, the body is responding to warmth, motion, imbalance, and the need to hold carefully. A person carrying tools is not only transporting objects, the body is preserving future usefulness at the cost of present effort. A person carrying food or water is extending the reach of the group, while the back absorbs the repeated corrections required by distance. The benefit belongs to the whole life of the person or group. The strain often gathers in the individual body. This does not mean carrying is harmful by nature. The human body is capable of carrying, and many forms of carrying can be managed well when movement is varied and effort is shared. The problem appears when load meets fatigue, repetition, asymmetry, or sudden demand. If one side carries more every day, the trunk may learn a slight lean. If the hips are stiff, the lower back may become the main place of adjustment. If the body has been sitting for hours before lifting, the old carrying system may be asked to wake too quickly. If stress or poor sleep has made the nervous system protective, the same weight may feel more threatening than usual. The ancient pattern is still there, but the modern rhythm changes its meaning. Instead of carrying through varied terrain with many transitions, a person may carry a laptop bag on one shoulder after a long day in a chair. Instead of lifting from ground positions used often, a person may bend suddenly from a stiff-seated body. Instead of loads distributed through different tools, postures, and pauses, a person may repeat the same narrow burden day after day. The back becomes the ledger where these small debts are recorded. It remembers not in thoughts, but in tissue sensitivity, muscle guarding, stiffness, and the nervous system's increased attention. The ancient reason humans still carry is also the ancient reason the back still pays. We became a species able to move more than ourselves, and the spine became one of the hidden places where that enlarged life was supported. Every bag, child, basket, tool, bundle, and modern object repeats an old exchange. The hands take hold of the world, and the back quietly agrees to help carry it. The objects have changed, but the old pattern remains. A person in the deep past may have carried a bundle of plant fibers, a stone tool, gathered food, water, wood, or a child too young to walk far. A person today may carry a backpack, a handbag, a suitcase, a laundry basket, a box of groceries, a work bag, or a child lifted from a seat. The surface beneath the feet may be different, the materials may be different, the distance may be shorter, but the body still receives the burden through the same ancient arrangement. The hands hold, the shoulders connect, the ribs and trunk brace, the pelvis settles. The lower back organizes the load so the body can keep moving without falling out of balance. This is why even a modern object can wake an old vulnerability. A laptop bag on one shoulder is not a prehistoric basket, but the spine still answers to asymmetry. A suitcase rolled through an airport is not a bundle carried across rough ground, but the arm still pulls, the trunk still resists, and the lower back still adjusts. A child carried on one hip is not an ancient scene preserved in stone, but the body still leans, tightens, and shifts to keep both the child and the carrier stable. The ancient burden has not vanished. It has been renamed by modern life. What makes the modern version unusual is not always the weight itself, but the context around it. A person may carry after long sitting, after poor sleep, after a day of stress, or after many hours with the hips folded and the back held quiet. The load then enters a body that has not been moving through many levels and directions. The hips may not open smoothly. The legs may not feel ready. The trunk may brace quickly. The nervous system may already be protective. In that condition, an ordinary bag can feel like too much. Not because the bag is extreme, but because the back is being asked to become the main organizer of a movement the whole body should share. This is where the story of carrying returns to the title's question. Why does the back hurt so easily? sometimes because the back is not responding to one object alone. It is responding to the object plus the day before it, the posture before it, the fatigue before it, and the ancient role it still plays as the center of human carrying. Human life became larger because we could move things beyond the moment of finding them. We could bring food back, keep tools, protect infants, gather materials, travel with useful objects, and later build homes, villages, roads, farms, workshops, and cities. Each step of that expansion placed more meaning into what the hands could hold. But the hands never carried alone. The spine was always beneath the gesture. The back became one of the quiet foundations of human culture, not through thought, but through labor. It helped turn intention into transport. It made care portable. It made tools portable. It made resources portable. In modern life, the burden may seem smaller because machines and furniture have removed many old hardships, yet smaller burdens can still repeat. A bag carried on the same side every day, a child lifted in the same hurried way, a phone held forward while the neck bends, a box lifted after hours of stillness, a suitcase pulled with one arm while the body twists. These are not dramatic images, but the back often suffers from what is not dramatic. It suffers from repetition without attention, load without preparation, and movement without shared support. The ancient reason humans still carry is therefore not locked in a distant past. It is present whenever the hand reaches for something and the spine prepares quietly behind it. The back hurts easily because it stands at the meeting place between human freedom and human burden. We carry objects, but we also carry the old design that made carrying possible. The weakness of the human back should not be blamed only on the modern world. Chairs, screens, vehicles, and soft furniture may change the burden, but they did not create every form of strain from nothing. Long before offices, paved roads, and mattresses, human bodies were already working under pressure. They walked long distances, carried loads, bent toward the ground, lifted materials, held children, shaped tools, climbed, crouched, stood, and recovered imperfectly. The past was not a painless place. It is important to say this calmly, because there is a tempting story that says ancient bodies were always stronger, cleaner, and more perfectly matched to their world. That story is too simple. Human remains from many past populations often show signs that bodies were used hard. Bones can preserve traces of wear, healed injury, joint change, repeated stress, and the uneven demands of daily life. These traces do not tell us every detail of how a person felt. Bone does not record every ache, and pain itself is not preserved like a tool or a footprint. But skeletal evidence can show that past bodies were not untouched by strain. The spine, hips, knees, shoulders, and teeth can all carry marks of work, age, diet, injury, and environment. This matters for the question of back pain because it prevents us from turning human evolution into a myth of lost perfection. The ancient reason humans still carry is not that we once had perfect backs and then ruined them. It is that the back has always been part of a body under demand. In earlier lives, the demands were often different from ours. They may have involved more walking, more lifting from the ground, more uneven terrain, more direct physical labor, and more exposure to injury. In later agricultural and historical societies, repeated work could be harsh in another way, with planting, harvesting, grinding, building, carrying water, tending animals, hauling materials, and performing tasks shaped by status, gender, age, and local environment. Across these different worlds, the back remained central because it linked the upper body to the lower body and helped turn effort into action. Archaeology and bioarchaeology remind us that bodies are records of life, but they are not simple records. A worn joint does not automatically mean constant pain. A person can have visible skeletal change and little pain, or pain that leaves no obvious mark on bone. Still, the broader pattern is clear enough to be useful. Human bodies have long paid physical costs for survival, work, travel, and social life. The modern back is not the first back to ache. It is the latest form of an old problem meeting new conditions. This view is more honest than nostalgia. It allows us to see continuity without pretending the past was gentle. It also helps explain why the back can hurt so easily today, without needing a dramatic modern villain. The spine was already a compromise before modern life changed the rhythm around it. It was already curved, flexible, load-bearing, and watched by a protective nervous system. It already had to manage upright balance, free hands, carrying, bending, and fatigue. Modern life may narrow movement and increase stillness, but the underlying structure was never invulnerable. Even in ancient settings, a wrong step, a heavy load, a long journey, a hard fall, or years of repeated work could leave the body changed. The difference is not that the past had no back pain and the present invented it. The difference is that each age gives the old spine a different kind of burden. Some burdens come from terrain and labour. Some come from hunger, disease and injury. Some come from agriculture and repetitive work. Some come from chairs, screens, and long stillness. Underneath them all is the same living bridge, strong enough to support human life but sensitive enough to remember effort. When your back hurts from something small, it may belong to a story far older than the room you're in. But that story is not a fall from perfection. It is the story of a body that has always survived by carrying more than comfort alone. It is easy to imagine the past as a place where the body was more natural, and therefore less troubled. In that imagination, people moved all day, slept deeply, used their muscles fully, and lived closer to the conditions for which the human body was shaped. There is some truth in the idea that older lives involved more varied physical demand than many modern routines. But if we go too far with that idea, it becomes a false comfort. The past was not a world of perfect backs. It was a world where bodies were often asked to do hard things with limited protection, limited treatment, and little control over weather, food, terrain, injury, and age. A person could be strong and still be worn down. A body could be well adapted to movement and still suffer from repeated work. The human spine was never protected from strain simply because life was older. It carried loads, bent toward the ground, absorbed falls, helped the body rise, and endured fatigue long before modern furniture existed. This matters because romanticizing the past can hide the real lesson. The lesson is not that ancient people had no pain. The lesson is that pain belongs to a body that must live inside conditions. Those conditions change, but the body always pays attention. In many past communities, daily survival may have required walking over irregular ground, lifting and carrying materials, gathering food, processing plants or grains, making tools, tending fires, moving children, building shelters, farming, hunting, herding, or working with stone, wood, fibre, clay, or water. We cannot describe one universal ancient life, because human groups lived in many climates, landscapes, and cultures. But we can say that physical demand was not rare. The back was often involved because it sits at the centre of action. It helps connect reach to step, hand to ground, burden to balance. Over years, this central role could leave traces. Some traces might appear in bones and joints. Some would disappear with soft tissue. Some pain would never be visible to us at all. That uncertainty should make the story more careful, not less meaningful. It reminds us that the absence of a perfect record is not proof of perfect health. People in the past may have tolerated pain differently, explained it differently, or continued working because they had little choice. A painful back in an ancient or historical setting did not always mean rest was available. The body might have kept moving because the day demanded it. This is another reason we should not compare modern discomfort to an imagined painless past. Modern life has its own problems, especially long stillness and repeated narrow postures. But older lives had other burdens: heavy labour, accident, infection, hunger, cold, childbirth, violence, and wear from years of physical necessity. The human back survived through all of these worlds not because it was flawless, but because it was adaptable. Adaptability is not the same as immunity. A flexible spine can bend many times, but bending under fatigue is still demanding. A strong back can carry a load, but carrying too often or unevenly can still leave it sore. An upright body can walk far, but distance still asks payment from feet, knees, hips, pelvis, and lower spine. When we stop idealizing the past, the ancient reason becomes clearer. The back hurts easily today not because humans fell from a perfect natural state, but because the back has always been a compromise. It allowed upright walking, free hands, carrying, reaching, tool use, and endurance. Those abilities help build human life. They also place the spine in the middle of many kinds of effort. Modern discomfort is one expression of that compromise. Ancient wear was another. The shape of the burden changes across history, but the old bridge remains. To understand the back honestly, we do not need a golden age. We need to see the body as a living record of use, pressure, recovery, and time. The real difference between ancient back strain and modern back strain is not that one existed and the other did not. The difference is the pattern. A human back has always met effort, but the kind of effort changes with the world around the body. In an older landscape, strain might come from walking across uneven ground, carrying food or materials, crouching for work near the earth, rising from low positions, climbing, balancing, or repeating practical tasks because survival required them. In agricultural and historical settings, strain might come from planting, harvesting, grinding, hauling, building, kneeling, bending, or working for long hours in ways shaped by tools, class, gender, climate, and local culture. In modern life, strain may come from long sitting, fixed work height, driving, soft furniture, limb walking, repeated screen posture, sudden lifting after stillness, or carrying objects in narrow and asymmetrical ways. These are not the same pressures, yet they all meet the same old structure. The spine remains curved, jointed, flexible, and sensitive. The lower back still stands between the upper body and the pelvis. The hips still need to share bending. The ribs still influence breath and posture. The nervous system still decides when signals from the body deserve attention. This is why it is too simple to say that modern people have back pain only because they are less active. It is also too simple to say that ancient people were protected because they moved more. Movement can nourish the body, but movement can also wear it down when load, repetition, injury, fatigue, or poor recovery enter the story. Stillness can rest the body, but stillness can also make tissues sensitive when it becomes too long and too narrow. The back does not judge an era. It responds to conditions. One age may overuse the body through labor and distance. Another age may underuse some regions while overloading others through posture and repetition. Both can lead to pain because the back is not a perfect shield against either hardship or comfort. It is a living compromise that depends on balance. This careful view helps us avoid two mistakes. The first mistake is blaming modern life as if every back problem began with the chair. The second mistake is worshipping the past, as if the body was once free from pain. The evidence of human history points toward a quieter truth. Bodies adapt, but they also accumulate marks from how they are used. A person who walked more, carried more, and worked closer to the ground may have had movement variety, but also greater exposure to injury and wear. A person today may have protection from many old dangers, but may live with repeated stillness, stress, and sudden bursts of load. In both cases, the spine receives the life around it. The ancient reason humans still carry is therefore not a single lost lifestyle. It is the fact that the human back became central to too many important abilities at once. It helped us stand. It helped us walk. It helped free the hands. It helped carry children, food, tools, and materials. It helped us bend toward the ground and rise again. It helped us build lives that reach beyond the body's immediate needs. But because it became central, it also became exposed. Every change in environment, technology, work, rest, and social life changes the burden placed on it. The back pain of the present is not separate from that long history. It is one more form of the old negotiation between anatomy and world. A small pain today may come from a chair, a lift, a bag, a poor night of sleep, or a stressful week. But behind it is a structure that has been negotiating human life for a very long time. The past does not give us a perfect model to return to. It gives us perspective. It shows that the back was never outside history. It has always carried the demands of its time, and our time has simply given it a new shape of burden. A small movement can hurt because it is not always as small as it looks to the body. From the outside, bending to pick up a sock, reaching for a cup, turning toward a shelf, or standing up from a chair may seem too ordinary to matter. But inside the back, the movement arrives with a history. It arrives after the hours that came before it. It arrives after the posture the body has held, the fatigue it has gathered, the sleep it did or did not receive, the tension it has carried, and the way the hips, legs, ribs, and shoulders are sharing the work in that moment. The final action may be light, but the system receiving it may already be tired. This is one reason back pain often feels unfair. A person may say, "I only bent down," or "I only turned slightly," because the visible event was not dramatic. Yet the back does not respond only to what the eyes can see. It responds to pressure, timing, repetition, readiness, and protection. A spine that has been still for hours may experience a sudden bend differently from a spine that has been moving gently through many positions. A lower back that has been quietly bracing may be more sensitive when asked to rotate. A nervous system that has been alerted by stress, poor sleep, or earlier discomfort may treat a small signal as more important. The pain may appear in one instant, but the conditions for that pain may have been building quietly. This is not a new weakness created only by modern life. It is part of the deeper nature of a human back. The spine is a central structure in an upright body. It must hold the upper body, let the body move, protect nerves, connect with the pelvis, respond to breathing, and help the arms work freely. Long ago, as humans became more committed to walking on two legs, the back became responsible for balancing many demands at once. It was useful because it could adapt. But because it could adapt, it could also become sensitive when the pattern around it became narrow or overloaded. A small movement can therefore become the last signal in a larger chain. Imagine a person sitting for many hours, with the hips folded and the lower back held in one shape. The tissues tolerate it because the body is patient. Then the person stands, turns, and bends toward the floor. In that brief moment, the lower back may be asked to move before the hips have fully opened, before the legs have rejoined the task, and before the trunk has settled into upright balance. The object on the floor may be light, but the upper body itself becomes a load when it leans forward. The muscles must slow the bend, protect the spine, and help return the body to standing. If the system is ready, this can be easy. If it is tired or guarded, the same movement can feel sharp. The ancient reason is that the back was shaped for shared movement, not isolated burden. It expects the hips to help, the legs to support, the ribs to turn, the breath to move, and the nervous system to judge the situation without panic. When one part does not share well, another part may do more. Over time, the lower back often becomes the place where the extra work gathers. This is why pain after a small movement does not always mean a large injury has occurred. It can mean the body has crossed a threshold of irritation or protection. The old living bridge has decided that the movement is no longer background information. It has become something worth stopping, guarding, or noticing. This can be frightening because pain feels like certainty, but pain is often more like a warning than a simple measurement. It tells the body that something needs attention, even when the exact cause is layered. The human back hurts so easily because it sits at the crossing point of ancient anatomy and daily life. It carries upright balance, repeated posture, free hands, fatigue, memory, and movement all at once. A small bend may be small only to the mind. To the back, it may be the final weight placed on a long, quiet day. Pain does not always measure damage in a simple way. This is one of the most important truths for understanding why the back can hurt so strongly after something small. A person may feel a sharp warning and immediately imagine that something serious must have happened inside the spine. Sometimes pain does need medical attention, especially when it is severe, unusual, spreading with alarming symptoms, or connected with injury. But in many ordinary back pain experiences, the pain is real without being a perfect map of structural harm. The nervous system does not work like a camera looking at the tissues. It works more like a protector, gathering signals from muscles, joints, discs, ligaments, nerves, blood flow, movement, memory, sleep, stress, and expectation. Then it creates an experience strong enough to change behavior. This means a painful back may be telling the body to slow down, move differently, rest, or pay attention, even when no single dramatic injury can be clearly named. The ancient value of this system is easy to understand. A body that could feel warning early had a better chance of avoiding deeper harm. If a person in an older landscape had strained the back while carrying, walking, climbing, or rising from the ground, pain could reduce movement before the problem became worse. The signal did not need to be perfectly accurate. It needed to be useful for survival. But the same protective system can become confusing in modern life, because it may speak loudly in response to layers of strain that do not look dangerous from the outside. A long day of sitting, poor sleep, repeated worry, tense breathing, a carried bag, and one small bend can combine into a strong signal. The pain may feel sudden, but the nervous system may have been preparing the warning for hours. This is why the back can hurt so much from a movement that seems too small to explain it. The body is not judging only force, it is judging context. Is the tissue tired? Is the movement familiar? Is the spine already stiff? Are the hips helping? Is the person rested? Has this area hurt before? Is the body under stress? These questions are not conscious, but the nervous system uses their answers to decide how protective it should be. In this way, pain is both physical and meaningful. It comes through the body, and it is shaped by the body's sense of safety. That does not make it imaginary, it makes it deeply human. The back is especially vulnerable to this because it is central to almost everything a person does. If the hand hurts, the body may avoid using one hand. If the back hurts, standing, walking, turning, lifting, sitting, sleeping, and breathing can all feel affected. The nervous system, therefore, treats the back with seriousness. It may guard the area with muscle tension. It may make movement feel limited. It may increase sensitivity, so the person notices signals that would normally fade into the background. This protective response can help at first, but if it remains too strong, it can make the back feel more fragile than it actually is. The ancient spine and the ancient alarm system begin to reinforce one another. The tissues send signals. The brain protects. Protection tightens movement. Tight movement creates more signals. The loop can continue even when the original strain was not large. This is why the story of back pain cannot be told only through bones and posture. It must include the nervous system that reads the body. It must include fatigue, recovery, tension, and memory. It must include the long evolutionary fact that pain was never designed to be a perfect report. It was designed to protect life under uncertainty. When the back hurts, the sensation should be respected because it is real. But it does not always mean the body has been badly damaged. Sometimes it means an old protective system has decided that the central bridge of the body needs caution. The signal may be uncomfortable, even frightening, but it belongs to a body trying to keep itself safe. In that sense, back pain is not just a message from the spine. It is a message from the whole human history of protection, movement, and survival. The ease of back pain comes from the fact that the back is not one simple thing. It is a meeting place. Bones give it shape. Discs help distribute pressure. Joints guide motion. Muscles create support and movement. Ligaments limit what should not go too far. Nerves listen from within. The pelvis, hips, ribs, shoulders, feet, breath, and head all change what the back must do. Because of this, a painful moment rarely belongs to only one cause. It may begin with a tissue that has been irritated, but the feeling becomes stronger or weaker depending on the whole condition of the body. This is why a small action can hurt one day and not another. The action may look the same from the outside, but the body receiving it is never exactly the same. One day the person has slept well, moved often, breathed easily, and carried little. Another day the person has sat for hours, worried deeply, slept poorly, leaned forward, lifted in a hurry, and ignored small stiffness until evening. The final bend may be identical. The back's response may not be, "This is not mysterious," when we remember what the back was asked to become in the human story. It was not made as a rigid support beam. It became the central bridge of an upright animal, one that walks on 2 feet, uses free hands, carries objects, turns toward sounds, bends toward the ground, and balances a heavy upper body over a narrow base. That role made the spine powerful, but it also placed it in the path of many forces. The lower back especially became a crossing point between the weight of the trunk and the movement of the pelvis and legs. When the hips move well, the legs share effort, the ribs turn, and the trunk supports without fear, the back can do remarkable work quietly. When these partners are tired, stiff, still, or tense, the back may become the place where the missing cooperation is felt. Modern life often increases this problem by narrowing the body's daily pattern. The spine may spend long periods in one posture, then suddenly be asked to return to its older range, bending, lifting, twisting, or carrying. The back does not object to movement itself. Movement is part of its nature. What it often objects to is a poor conversation between movement and readiness. A bend after a long walk may feel different from the same bend after a long drive. A lift after relaxed sleep may feel different from the same lift after a night of tension. A twist while the feet and hips turn with the body may feel different from a twist forced mostly through the lower spine. The back hurts easily because it is asked to interpret all of these differences at once. It is mechanical, but not only mechanical. It is ancient, but not frozen in the past. It is modern, but not newly invented by chairs and screens. Its sensitivity comes from many layers meeting together. The old curves of upright walking, the freedom of the hands, the habit of carrying, the loss of varied movement, the stillness of modern posture, the memory of past pain, and the protective nature of the nervous system. This layered view is slower than a simple answer, but it is more honest. It does not say the back is weak for no reason. It does not say every pain is dangerous. It does not say the past was perfect or the present is ruined. It says the human back is an old living structure trying to serve a changing life. When pain appears after something small, the body may be showing the limit of a balance that has been quietly shifting for some time. The ancient reason humans still carry is not one hidden flaw. It is the entire compromise that made us upright, mobile, skillful, social, and able to bring the world into our hands. The back hurts easily because it stands where all of that history still meets the ordinary weight of today. The human back begins to make more sense when we stop looking for one mistake. There is no single ancient error hidden inside the spine, no one bad turn in evolution that explains every ache. The deeper truth is more gradual. The back is the result of many useful changes layered on top of older structures, and each useful change brought its own limit. Upright walking helped the human line move in a new way, but it also placed the trunk above the pelvis and asked the lower spine to help manage balance. Free hands allowed carrying, tool use, gathering, holding, shaping, and care, but they also created new loads that had to be stabilized from the center of the body. A flexible spine allowed bending, turning, breathing, reaching, and adjustment, but flexibility also meant that small forces could gather in sensitive places. A protective nervous system helped the body avoid deeper harm, but protection could also make pain louder when the system sensed fatigue, threat, or uncertainty. None of these things is simply bad. Each one helped make human life possible. The cost is that the back became the place where many advantages meet. This is what a compromise means in biology. It does not mean failure. It means the body solved one problem while accepting another. The human spine did not need to be perfect in every future situation. It needed to be good enough for survival, movement, reproduction, care, and adaptation in the worlds where humans and their ancestors actually lived. A body that could walk efficiently, carry, bend, and use the hands had a powerful advantage, even if the lower back remained vulnerable under certain conditions. Evolution does not ask whether a structure will feel comfortable in every chair, every bed, every vehicle, or every long workday thousands of generations later. It preserves arrangements that worked well enough under changing pressures. The back is one of those arrangements. It is strong, but not invincible. It is flexible, but not endlessly tolerant. It can heal and adapt, but it can also become irritated when load, stillness, stress, and repetition gather together. The ancient compromise is visible in the shape of the lower spine. Its curve helps the body stand upright, but the same curve can focus pressure when posture, lifting, or fatigue changes the way force travels. The compromise is visible in the pelvis and hips, which support walking but must also share bending and rotation with the spine. When they do not share well, the lower back may carry more. The compromise is visible in the hands, which can create, hold, and carry, but every object held by the hands asks the trunk to answer. The compromise is visible in the nervous system, which can protect the body with pain, but can also become too alert when the body is tired, stressed, or uncertain. This layered design is why a small backache can contain a long history. The pain may begin today, but the conditions that make it possible are ancient. They come from a body that rose onto two legs without leaving all earlier anatomy behind. They come from a spine that became a bridge, a shock absorber, a support, a movement channel, and a warning system all at once. They come from the fact that humans did not become human by solving every mechanical problem perfectly. We became human by carrying useful trade-offs forward. Modern life does not erase those trade-offs. It changes the pressures placed upon them. A long day in a chair, a sudden lift, a heavy bag, a restless night, or a tense week may seem far removed from ancient landscapes, but the same old spine receives them. The body still tries to balance the head, trunk, pelvis, and legs. It still tries to let the hands act freely. It still tries to protect the central passage of movement and nerve signals. When it hurts, it may be showing the edge of a compromise that usually works quietly. The back is not proof that humans were poorly made. It is proof that humans were made through time, through adjustment, through inherited structures being asked to do new work. The ache in the lower back can feel like a personal betrayal, but it may be something older and less personal. The price of a body that gained many freedoms without ever becoming a perfect machine. Standing upright was not one change. It was a chain of changes that pulled the whole body into a new relationship with gravity. The head had to balance above the spine. The chest had to sit above the pelvis. The pelvis had to connect the spine to legs that now did most of the travelling. The feet had to become stable platforms on the ground. The arms were no longer needed as regular supports during ordinary walking, so they became more available for carrying, reaching, making, and touching. This is why the back cannot be understood alone. It became important because everything around it changed. When the body rose, the spine became the central passage between the upper and lower halves of a new human form. It carried the weight above, answered the movement below, and kept enough flexibility for daily life to continue. This was a remarkable solution, but it placed many demands on one region of the body. The lower back had to help hold the trunk over the hips. The hips had to move with the legs. The abdomen and deep muscles of the trunk had to support without becoming rigid. The shoulders and arms had to move freely without pulling the body out of balance. Every human action then became a small negotiation through the spine. Walking asked the back to stabilize. Carrying asked it to adjust. Bending asked it to control the weight of the upper body. Turning asked it to divide rotation with the ribs and hips. Standing still asked it to make quiet corrections against gravity. None of these tasks is unusual. They are ordinary human tasks. But ordinary does not mean simple. The ancient body became human by making all of these tasks possible at the same time. That is the deeper compromise. A back that only supported weight could have been more rigid. A back that only moved could have been looser. But the human back had to do both. It had to be strong enough to hold the body upright and mobile enough to let the hands work in front of the body. It had to protect the spinal cord while allowing the trunk to bend. It had to support breathing while also helping posture. It had to permit endurance walking while also answering sudden changes in load. The result is not a weak structure. It is a busy structure. Its vulnerability comes partly from how central it became. A small problem in the hip can ask more from the lower back. A tired foot can change how force travels upward. A load in one hand can pull through the shoulder and ribs. A forward head can alter tension through the upper spine. A nervous system under stress can make the whole back more protective. The pain may appear in one place, but the cause often belongs to the whole upright body. This is why the back can feel like it betrays us when it is really carrying too many old responsibilities at once. The same spine that helped humans walk far also helped them carry. The same posture that freed the hands also required constant balance. The same hands that made tools also created new burdens for the trunk. The same social life that made care possible also meant holding children, transporting materials, and working for others. Human history placed more and more life into the space around the hands, and the back became the support behind that expanding world. Modern life continues the pattern in quieter ways. The hands type, hold phones, steer, lift bags, carry children, open doors, cook, clean, and reach forward for hours. The objects are modern, but the old arrangement remains. The back still steadies the free hands. It still connects intention to movement. It still takes the cost of standing, walking, carrying, and social living into one central structure. This does not make the back a failure. It makes it a record of what humans gained. To stand tall, to travel, to use the hands, to carry what matters, and to live in groups are not separate gifts. They are linked through the body. The spine is where many of those gifts meet, and because they meet there, their costs meet there too. The cost of the human back does not come from one flaw. It comes from the whole arrangement that allowed humans to become what they are. A spine that curves, balances, bends, protects, and carries is already doing more than one simple job. A pelvis that supports upright walking also changes how the lower back receives force. Free hands make tools, gather food, hold children, and shape culture, but they also ask the trunk to stabilize what the arms are doing. Long legs allow distance, but each step sends motion upward through the feet, knees, hips, and spine. A sensitive nervous system protects the body, but it can also make pain stronger when it reads fatigue, stress, or uncertainty. The back is where these many trades meet. To look for one cause is to miss the deeper pattern. The human back hurts easily because it is not the product of a single-purpose body. It is part of a body that solved many problems at once, and each solution left a quiet pressure behind. This is why the ancient reason is not just standing upright, though standing upright is central. It is also carrying, it is also bending, it is also walking far, it is also freeing the hands. It is also living in groups where objects, children, tools, food, and shelter had to move with the body. The lower back became a hidden servant of human possibility. It helped make the upper body stable enough for the hands to become skillful. It helped keep the body balanced while the legs carried it forward. It helped control bending toward the ground and rising again. It helped absorb the uneven demands of work, travel, rest, and recovery. This made human life wider, but not weightless. The same back that supported these abilities also became exposed to their costs. There is no need to exaggerate this into a dramatic failure. The spine is not a mistake. It is a living compromise. 2. It usually works so quietly that people forget how much it is doing. Only when it hurts does its central role become visible. A small ache can reveal how many duties have gathered in one place. The person may think only of a chair, a bag, a bed, or a sudden bend. But beneath that moment is the older structure, a curved spine holding a vertical trunk, joined to hips that must share motion, watched by nerves that protect the center of the body, and connected to hands that rarely remain empty for long. Modern life changes this compromise, but does not create it from nothing. A long drive, a day at a desk, a screen held low, a suitcase pulled on one side, or a child lifted quickly, can all place new shapes of burden on the same old system. The ancient back was shaped in relation to movement, but the modern world can give it long stillness followed by sudden demand. It was shaped to share work across the whole body, but modern routines often silence the feet, hips, ribs, and shoulders until the lower back becomes the place where the imbalance is felt. It was shaped with pain as a warning, but modern fatigue and stress can make that warning easier to trigger. None of this means the body has betrayed us in a personal way. It means the body is still carrying its history. The price of being human is not written in one weak bone or one fragile muscle. It is written in the relationship between many strengths. The strength to stand created a need for balance. The strength to walk created repeated force. The strength to carry created load. The strength to bend created vulnerability. The strength to feel danger created pain. The back holds these strengths together, and sometimes the holding itself becomes uncomfortable. This is the ancient compromise inside us. The body gained freedom by accepting strain. It gained reach by accepting burden. It gained movement by accepting sensitivity. And every ordinary backache still carries a trace of that exchange. To understand the back through history is to soften the feeling of betrayal. When pain appears after something small, it can feel personal, as if the body has turned against the person living inside it. A simple bend, a night of sleep, a light bag, a long chair, or a short walk can suddenly become a reminder that the body is not fully under command. That feeling can be frustrating. It can also be frightening, because the back is so central. When it hurts, the whole world seems to shrink. Standing changes, sitting changes, walking changes. Even breathing or turning in bed can feel less free. But the long story of the human back gives this pain a different frame. The back is not a traitor. It is an old structure doing a difficult job in a world that has changed around it. It carries the shape of upright walking, the burden of free hands, the memory of varied movement, the cost of carrying, the effects of stillness, and the warnings of a protective nervous system. It is not perfect, but it is not meaningless. It hurts because it is alive, central, and responsive. It hurts because it has been asked to stand between gravity and movement for a very long time. This does not mean pain should be ignored, or that every ache has the same cause. It means that ordinary back pain can be understood without shame. A human back is not a clean machine failing a simple test. It is a living compromise, shaped by deep time. Long before the modern person sat under electric light or looked down at a screen, the spine had already become the bridge between the upper body and the ground. It helped carry the head above the pelvis. It helped let the legs travel and the hands act. It helped people bend toward the earth, rise again, hold children, move objects, and build shared life. That same structure now enters offices, cars, kitchens, factories, bedrooms, and crowded streets. It meets flat floors, chairs, mattresses, work counters, and long periods of attention held in front of the body. The setting is new, but the spine is old. When it becomes sensitive, it may be telling us that the balance between movement, rest, load, and recovery has become uneven. It may be asking not for fear, but for understanding. This is the educational value of seeing the back through evolution. It reminds us that the body is not weak simply because it complains. A signal is not the same as a failure. Pain can be a warning from tissues, a message from the nervous system, a response to fatigue, or the result of repeated patterns that have gathered over time. The body speaks in sensation because that is how living systems protect themselves. The back, more than many other regions, must speak loudly when it feels threatened, because so much of daily life passes through it. If the back feels unsafe, the person becomes careful with nearly everything. This protective power is ancient. It once helped bodies avoid deeper harm in uncertain environments. Today, it can still protect, but it can also become too sensitive when life narrows movement or stretches stress across too many hours. To understand this is not to blame the past or the present, it is to see the body more honestly. We did not inherit a perfect spine, and we did not inherit a useless one. We inherited a spine good enough to help make human life possible, yet sensitive enough to remind us that possibility always has limits. The back is therefore not only a place of pain, it is also a record of survival. Each curve and joint belongs to a long negotiation between standing and bending, freedom and burden, movement and stillness, strength and warning. When the back hurts easily, the question may not be why the body has failed. The quieter question is what old responsibility the body is still trying to carry. The body is not weak in a meaningless way. It is limited in a historical way. This difference matters because meaningless weakness feels like failure, while historical limitation can be understood with more patience. The human back did not arrive in the present as an empty structure waiting for modern life to shape it. It arrived already carrying the marks of a long journey. It came from older animal bodies, from primate movement, from the gradual rise into upright walking, from the freeing of the hands, from the need to carry, from the pressure of social life, from the repeated work of bending toward the ground and rising again. Each stage left something useful behind, and each useful thing came with a condition. The spine became curved enough to balance the body, but those curves could also receive strain. The lower back became flexible enough to bend and turn, but that flexibility could also become sensitive. The nervous system became protective enough to warn the body, but that protection could sometimes grow louder than the visible danger. When the back hurts easily, it may feel as if the body has suddenly become unreliable. But in a deeper sense, the body is showing that it is still carrying the same old arrangement that made human life possible. It is not a meaningless defect. It is a trace of the path that brought humans here. A modern person may feel this trace in very ordinary moments. After sitting too long, the lower back may resist standing fully. After carrying a bag on one side, the body may feel uneven. After poor sleep, a small stiffness may become sharper. After days of stress, muscles may tighten around the spine before any deliberate movement begins. These experiences can be uncomfortable, but they are not random in the broad sense. They come from a body in which structure, habit, fatigue, and protection are linked. The back is not separate from life. It records the way life has been lived in the body. It records stillness, repetition, load, tension, recovery, and time. It also records older possibilities. The ability to stand upright is still there. The ability to walk is still there. The ability to bend, carry, turn, rest, and rise again is still there. Pain does not erase those abilities. It may interrupt them. It may ask for caution. It may remind the person that the body cannot be treated like a machine with no memory. But the presence of pain does not mean the human back is a failed design. It means the back is a living structure with a long past and a changing present. This view can make the subject calmer. It removes the need for a dramatic enemy. The enemy is not simply the chair, or the bed, or the screen, or age, or one small movement. Those may matter, but they matter because they meet an older body with older rules. The deeper story is the relationship between inherited anatomy and daily rhythm. A spine shaped through movement may become sensitive in stillness. A back made to share work with hips, legs, ribs, and shoulders may ache when those partners are quiet. A nervous system shaped to protect may raise pain when the whole organism feels tired or unsafe. These are not moral judgments. They are biological patterns. The educational value is not to fear the back, but to respect its history. The body has carried human beings through ice, heat, hunger, migration, work, tool use, childcare, farming, cities, factories, vehicles, and screens. It has never stopped adapting, but it has never become limitless. The back sits at the center of that truth. It reminds us that every comfort has a cost, every freedom has a burden, and every ancient advantage can become a modern sensitivity under the wrong rhythm. To hear that message gently is to see the body with less anger. The back is not betraying the person. It is revealing how much of the old human journey still lives beneath the skin. The old spine does not ask to be worshipped, and it does not ask to be feared. It asks to be understood as part of the long human story. Every person who has ever stood upright has lived inside this compromise. The head balanced above the body, the hands reached outward, the legs carried the body across the ground. The back held the middle together. Through that arrangement, humans could walk, carry, build, gather, care, remember, travel, and shape the world around them. But the same arrangement also left the back exposed to load, stillness, repetition, fatigue, and warning. This is why the question of back pain is not only a question about discomfort, it is a question about what kind of body we inherited and what kind of world that body now inhabits. The modern person may feel pain after a small movement, and the moment may seem almost too ordinary to explain. A turn in bed, a bend toward the floor, a long morning in a chair, a bag held on one side, a night of poor sleep, a week of quiet stress. But the back does not experience these moments separately from the whole life of the body. It receives them as layers. It receives posture, breath, load, fatigue, memory, attention, and movement all at once. Behind those layers is an older inheritance, a spine that was modified for upright walking, a pelvis that became the base of a vertical body, hands that became free but rarely empty, and a nervous system that learned to protect the center before danger became too great. The ancient reason humans still carry is not a single secret. It is the entire pattern of being human. We carry weight because our hands were freed. We carry tension because our nervous system is protective. We carry stiffness because modern life often narrows movement. We carry sensitivity because the back stands where so many forces meet. And we carry history because evolution never starts over with a clean design. It reshapes what already exists. The back is one of the clearest reminders of this. It is strong enough to hold us upright, yet sensitive enough to complain when the rhythm is wrong. It is flexible enough to bend toward the ground, yet vulnerable when bending becomes rushed, repeated, or unsupported. It is central enough to help us live fully, yet central enough that pain there can make life feel smaller. To understand this is not to receive a simple cure. It is to receive a calmer way of seeing the body. The back is not an enemy. It is not a perfect machine. It is not proof that humans were poorly made. It is the living result of ancient solutions still meeting present conditions. Its pain may be a warning, a memory, a protection, or a sign that load and recovery have fallen out of balance. It should be respected, and when pain is severe or worrying, people should seek appropriate medical help. But in the deeper story, ordinary back pain also teaches humility. It reminds us that comfort did not erase evolution. Technology did not replace anatomy. Modern rooms did not remove ancient gravity. The body still belongs to time. It still carries the old bargain that made human life possible: freedom with burden, movement with strain, protection with pain, strength with limits. Perhaps this is the quiet value of listening to the back. It brings the human story down from distant fossils and old landscapes into the small private space of the body. It tells us that history is not only behind us, it is inside posture, breath, muscle, bone, and nerve. It is in the way we rise, the way we carry, the way we sit, the way we bend, and the way we notice pain when the body asks to be heard. So when the back hurts easily, perhaps the final question is not only what went wrong today, but what ancient responsibility is this old spine still carrying tonight?